Greetings, sentient beings. This broadcast is not intended for children. There is going to be strong language and adult themes.
Because there's not competent adult supervision.
If it's not intended for children, I maybe shouldn't be here.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. I was totally thinking it.
I was actually going to say it about you, but then I'm like, no, I bet not. I should use myself as the target.
Yeah, I'm not sure if we can find a responsible adult in this crew, but
yeah, I refuse to grow up. If like going to Never Neverland was an option, I would jump at it.
I knew I didn't want to be an adult.
Oh my! What's that saying? You have to grow up. You don't have to grow old, or something like that.
Other way around.
You don't have to grow old. You don't have to grow up. You do have to grow old. You don't have to grow up, or something like that.
So, yeah. So I see Amiga Nuts and Doc Fearson in the side chat.
Hi, Doc.
I should probably open up the side chat at some point.
Yeah, there you go. Oh, and that's the other thing I want to do, and I'll get around to it at some point. Most likely after all of this coronavirus stuff is over. I do still want to get the double monitor set up because I would have known a lot sooner that my stream had been canceled were I to have had two monitors to look at it.
Yeah.
As it was, I think we went almost an hour beyond the point at which it was canceled. And,
Well, no, it wasn't canceled when it was going live because I didn't even come in. You know, I didn't even hear Mom NATO's comment. So I didn't come in until like 20, 30 minutes after that.
My guess is that it was pulled at the 40-minute mark.
Yeah.
Have you not watched it?
Yes, I have. And that's why my guess is the way it is. As it starts, you have the audio and the video together. At the 40-minute mark, right after the comment, the video went dark, but the audio kept going.
Okay.
So that being a significant change in the stream, I'm guessing, okay, that's when it happened. Yeah. And it was right after Mom NATO's comment about.
Okay. Well, we can't go into that too much here because we're public.
No, I won't say it because I'll get Purple's stream.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean. That we don't
like it.
Although now it appears that if there's someone we don't like, we just weasel our way into their stream and start talking about that.
Pretty much. I'm expecting that to happen with greater frequency.
But didn't that already happen once already? Was it, who was it? Skylar Fiction? I'm not a subscriber. I don't know. But didn't he have someone on his channel and they said something really, really out of line and they got the community strike?
Oh, I think I know what you're talking about. And I think it was, I forget what exactly it was, but Skylar was speaking and agreeing that this was a bad thing. But I guess because he talked about it, his stream got, he got it back. But I'm making my guesses here where it would be reasonable to call what happened on my stream a bad thing.
Yeah.
Well, YouTube does
to appeal it and everything else, and very likely be denied the appeal, they might actually take the stream away from me and the channel away from me, and I don't want that. That's my lifeblood, kids.
Well, YouTube does not like it when people talk about controversial topics. That is like the quickest way for them to at least give you the yellow dollar sign. Never mind a video being pulled, but they do not like it when you talk about shit that's controversial in any way.
Well, you're living proof of that. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Doc Fearson said it was Matt Powell that made some comments in Skylar's stream, I guess, there.
Yeah.
The video of me calling Matt Powell out, telling him to tell me I should die for being a lesbian, is flagged as hate speech. And I'm like, no, this is me calling someone out for their hate speech. Duh. But they don't care.
Yeah. That's the problem with them just picking up keywords and not, the bots don't know anything about context.
Well, there is actually something in the works right now that's supposed to help with that. Believe it or not, I was looking at their developer channel where they have a video channel. They talk about what's coming up for developers. And one of the things that they said was that they're giving us the power of self-censorship, essentially, where you can say, like there's a check menu of, does my video say this? Does my video say that? Different like controversial topics. And based on your answers, then they decide which advertisers are right for you. And of course, they have a system set up where if you lie, that you're in trouble. But still, it'll help cut down on the yellow dollar signs.
Sounds good in
I've
theory,
actually
but
been
there's
been
been
kind
so
of
many
wondering.
ideas that YouTube had that sounded good before they rolled them out that wound up screwing people over when they happen.
Well,
True,
yeah,
and
YouTube.
Kate
It
just
feels like
said,
they're actually hearing us when we say we need this fixed, though. Like they're
The thing
trying.
is
Well,
what
they're very
is-
trying. I agree with you about that, but are they attempting to do anything
That's
good?
not what I meant, and you know it.
but the thing is that honestly, that is something that could work if it was executed correctly. I don't think YouTube's going to execute it correctly.
Well, there's the
Not,
thing.
but I'm looking forward to trying it.
Yeah,
Fair. I would rather have the chance to try that because that's been something that I want to put up because putting a blanket "this is not for teenagers" doesn't work for
Oh,
my
this has
channel.
nothing to do with COPPA.
Yeah.
This has nothing to do with
No,
COPPA.
No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. But also, if I have a checklist, then there's a. It's hard for me to blanket put something as over 18 for some of
It's
my
got nothing to
subjects.
do with age. It's got nothing to do with age. This is all about, will advertisers flip out over the topic that you're choosing?
Yeah.
That's all it's about.
Yeah, but the thing is that without that, I have to put that blanket statement there, and that has been annoying for me.
Maybe I
I
don't. I feel like we're not communicating. Like we're talking past each other here.
I
Okay.
actually think
I
you're
agree
both
with you,
saying pretty
Kate.
much the same thing, and you're not connecting on it.
Okay, when I go and make a video, I have to put it as over 18.
Mm-hmm.
All right. If they integrated that checklist system, like you're saying, then I don't necessarily.
But-
Then I might have a little bit more leeway instead of just blanket putting it as this has to be for everybody.
Okay,
over
but it's got nothing to do with that at all. This thing
Yeah.
about the yellow dollar signs has nothing to do with the age range that your video is intended for. Nothing.
The
It's a
question-
completely separate topic.
The question that
Okay.
comes up in my mind is, okay, if you're going to talk about political assassinations, for example, how does that have anything to do with over 18 or under 18?
Yeah.
And I just, picked that subject just to be weird and be extreme. But age-wise is nothing. It's the subject matter itself. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, because basically advertisers are like, well, if you're talking about this horrible, horrible topic on the news or whatever, some some world-affecting event, that's where they start to go, yeah, we don't want our ads on this kind of content. So it really has nothing to do with, are you old enough to watch it? It has to do with, do advertisers think it's PG enough?
Right. Yeah. What is another good word for it?
They don't want excessive swearing, for example. They don't want a Mickey D's ad on a channel where someone's dropping F-bombs constantly.
Oh,
But
for the
what does
love
that
of
have to
St.
do?
Boo, if they could just shove that up their foo-foo, and what they don't understand is
but
that
what
the words
they-
I've been using are my substitutes for the naughty words.
But what does someone swearing have to do with whether or not their audience would want to buy McDonald's?
Well-
If I'm watching YouTube and I actually had ads playing, and I saw a company advertising for a YouTuber that I watch, I might be more inclined to buy their stuff whether they like it or not. I'm still going to give them money.
Well,
but
here's the
I'm
thing:
not saying it's logical. I'm saying
It's-
that's their
Okay.
thinking.
it's in no way connected with what the audience thinks of it. It's connected with how the advertiser thinks the audience will react. Just like, who was it that put the statement out? I am not what I think I am. I am not what you think I am. I am what I think you think I am. You know, it's that sort of extra level after extra level piled on top of it.
Well, I just know that I'm the lizard queen.
Yay!
But no, seriously, like that is
Spelling right on
the
hers.
big issue here is just, will advertisers think that what you're saying is morally questionable and therefore they don't want their name attached to it? That's just all it's about.
Oh, so wait a minute. Nobody should advertise on anything, any broadcast from the White House.
Well, I mean, again, I'm not saying that their criteria are logical. I'm just saying that this is their thinking.
I
Well,
mean,
no,
it depends on what the president is talking about that day, because
if they have like a checklist of
unfortunately-
topics, I can understand that could be a good system, because then the advertisers could, basically have the same checklist that, there are some topics that they wouldn't want to advertise on and some they would, and
maybe
like
some
maybe it would
advertisers are more
stop putting
permissive.
PragerU videos on atheist channels.
That would be handy. But no, seriously, maybe the like some advertisers are more permissive than others, and so it's not like this blanket, oh, you're too controversial for everybody.
Well, I'm guessing that at least one of Surus's advertisers would be a bit more permissive than, say, General Foods would be.
yeah, I would assume so.
You know which one I'm talking about, yeah.
Yeah, I know exactly which one you're talking about.
I just think
man, I don't remember the last time he mentioned those people.
Oh, really? I unfortunately haven't had him on screen for a long time. Well, this past week and some more, I've been in bed 18 to 24 hours at a time. So that's one reason I wouldn't have seen him. That's interesting, though, that he didn't say anything about them lately.
It's been a while. That's why it took me so long to figure out what the heck you were talking about, because I had completely forgotten that was a thing.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I'm trying to remember.
Speaking of things from the White House, did you see that footage of the meeting about like COVID-19 and Trump's just sitting there like half asleep, like some petulant child who doesn't want to be there? Mm-hmm. Oh man, this and the fact that people are so rabid and screamingly in favor of him is just terrifying.
I didn't see that one, but I saw him like doing a press conference about them developing a vaccine, and it's like it was clear he was reading off a script and had no idea what he was talking about.
Well, and he's got a reporter briefing or whatever out there where he, in Sharpie, has crossed out like coronavirus and COVID-19 Chinese on it. Like somehow we're going to play the race card with regard to this disease.
Well, and then you've got these dumbasses that are like, the Spanish didn't care when you called it the Spanish flu.
Well, geez, it was the flu that originated in Spain. There's a slight difference,
No, it's not.
I mean, allegedly, this started in China, so it's not all that different. But he clearly wants to play it for racist.
That's the whole point.
And also,
so for the record, the Spanish flu started in Kansas with pig farmers. The reason it's called the Spanish flu is because it killed somebody really, really important in Spain.
Oh.
A lot of those diseases that are named after locations, it's not the location where it started, really.
Well, here my thought, and I could be full of shit here, I usually am, was that the overall cause, if you want to call it that, of the Spanish flu was World War I.
Yeah, well,
so Spain would have made a little more sense to me in my muddled brain than Kansas.
Well, but I did hear somebody saying that, while it was called the Spanish flu, that some researchers actually believe it was brought over there by the American soldiers.
And started in Kansas.
Okay, that makes the sense then. Okay.
Yeah, that apparently they didn't have cases of it in Europe until the Americans started occupying France.
Ooh, I'm going to have to go back into my library because I do have a history of
So
the 1918 flu.
yeah, I'm
that I
not sure of
haven't
the
read.
timeline, so I don't know if that really
I
lines
haven't
up.
read
But
that
that's
in
just
quite a.
what I was
I got,
hearing in another broadcast
I
yesterday
got
or the day
I got
before.
that book about 10 years ago, and it's been a very long time since I've read it. So I think I might want to go back and reread it.
Yeah,
So
so
be mindful. We should call it COVID-19 or the coronavirus, like it's been called until Trump decided to try and turn it into a racist trope.
Well, I
Yeah.
still like calling it the cerveza virus just because of
I
the.
like that one. I really do.
Jeez.
Cerveza.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, Corona beer. It's like
Oh.
Mexican beer or some shit. So, coronavirus, cerveza virus.
I thought they had renamed their beer because somebody at my work was taking out a Coronita beer, and it had everything exactly the same as the Corona beer, but instead of being Corona, it was Coronita.
What size were
Well,
the
I couldn't
bottles?
tell you about that.
They were the smaller bottles, and that's why it's called Coronita.
That's why it's called. Yes,
Hmm.
yes.
But I literally, I didn't know that. I don't drink beer, and I literally thought that they had gone and renamed their merchandise to
Well,
avoid the
there are
stigma, because there
There
are
are
idiots.
people out there refusing to buy it.
Yeah.
Because they're idiots. Yeah.
yeah,
Because
the
they
company's
think
not
that it-
noticing that because the stuff's selling out.
Well, when everything else is
Well,
sold out.
for everybody who's not buying it because, oh my God, it's related to the beer, there are like 20 other people who are buying it because
Of those
it's
idiots.
funny.
Well, I think the people who are not buying it because of the virus probably never bought it in the first place because it was Mexican.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. And that's the thing that frustrates me
Yeah.
is
And
like
yeah, it's not even
there-
Mexican, it's
there's
brewed in the
people
US now.
who are reasonable and will hear the Chinese virus and not blame the person across the street from them. And then there are others who are like it's the Chinese fault and will use it as a crappy ass excuse to be a racist asshole to the Chinese person across the street.
Yeah.
Jeez, be mindful says Ebola beer. I
Well,
like it.
I'm trying to think of an instance of
doesn't
someone being
surprise me. I
crappy to another
expected that would be
person because of their race that wasn't a shitty reason.
Oh, it's always a shitty reason.
You
but
got
I'm
something
just
to
saying,
do.
I mean, no,
it's
actually,
an
I take
Yeah.
that back. I take that back. My reasons for hating on the French Canadian are based in fact. They're jerks.
I thought I was being funny because I'm walking down the aisles at my work and I find this on the floor, and it's a broken box of Corona beer. So I tagged it Corona outbreak found in Atlanta.
Ow!
Hold on. Guess what happened the very next day?
There was an outbreak.
The first case of Corona was found in Georgia the day after I posted this stupid
Hey,
little
isn't the Center for Disease Control in Atlanta?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
But somebody made a good point at some point. I'm going to see if I can find no, that's the wrong spot. Where is it?
New sign
You
of friendship
verify that
is
one.
do you want some hand sanitizer? Fortunately, my family has hand sanitizer from when we last traveled.
Cool.
That's not a problem. However, we're having trouble finding food because
Well, yeah, Kate has said that already.
because it's even though there's tons of grocery stores here, there's a few people who are panic buying to such an extreme that there is very little of anything
Yeah.
left.
Mm-hmm.
Well, one thing I mentioned.
Good luck getting toilet paper.
I
my dad sent me this video that looks like a drug deal, but it's actually like, the guy hands him some money. He takes toilet paper and Purell out of his coat, hands it through the car window, like black market toiletries, basically.
So you
Well,
mentioned the
the thing is-
CDC,
Mhm.
and this was a tweet that I had found a couple days ago. Someone said 250. Wow, compared to other states, this is high. No wonder The Walking Dead starts here.
Hmm.
Oh, jeez.
referring
No,
to Atlanta.
I have a friend, and I need to start asking him to like text me when he finds places. He is basically right now, because he's out of a job, but he's secure enough to do this for a little while. He's basically driving all over town and finding the stores that have things in them, and then texting people and saying, "Hey, do you want me to pick this up for you?" And then dropping them off
Okay.
their houses, because
So
they don't have the gas money or like the ability to go
Yeah.
out and look for all this shit.
so
And that's what he's been doing.
I've seen a tweet or a message or something. I'm not sure where it was about a young lady doing that as well, organizing a network for getting supplies for
Well,
the.
he's not organizing, but he is basically going, all right, well, I've got the time to drive over to this side of town, so let me go drive over and see if they have things. I don't want him to pick anything up for me, because honestly, I can go get it myself if I know where it's at. And
Okay.
also, I'd rather he spend that time actually like shopping for like the people who can't. But yeah, that's basically what he's doing as his hobby right now, is basically driving. He'll pick a side of town, say, all right, I'm going to try all of the stores in this side of town and see where stuff is hidden. And basically been doing that. And he doesn't overbuy. He just gets you enough for like a week or two so that there's stuff left for other people.
so just to put this out there, I know that as Diane likes to call it, Squalmart
Yep.
is cutting their hours, their store hours, but they're
Yes.
also introducing senior shopping times.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I heard about that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they're
we've
also,
seen
I've seen
senior
that.
hours initiated
Which
at a
would be
couple
a good
stores
thing.
around here.
Which would be a good thing. Were there anything for the seniors to buy?
Well, one of the
Um,
things here is that the Walgreens is doing it, the drugstore, so that at least the seniors can get in there and get their prescriptions.
Well, one
There
thing
we
that's going on here is that they're only letting people, like a limited number of people, into the supermarket at once now. Like the lines are way backed up, just waiting to get in.
Okay, then. Okay.
well, but the thing is that Walmart stocks in the evening, and the shopping hours that they are doing are in the morning. So the idea would be that
Well, they would be
Wouldn't that
as
be
well
illegal?
stocked as they could be
could
for
be
the
for the
But
for the elderly folks to come in the mornings.
but shouldn't that be illegal? I mean, I don't think you should be stalking anyone.
Yeah,
I'll be watching
gonna,
you. Yeah.
It's gonna put me in an odd position, because my regular shift is at 3 in the afternoon until midnight, but the stores are closing at 8:30 in the afternoon now. So I might actually have to do some real work.
Oh no, we
Yeah.
can't have that.
I
Well,
don't
one
know.
thing
I may see if our Walmart is doing that, because as much as my dad hates using his age to get anything, I'm
Well,
like,
I'm
dude,
sure
at this point.
if you contact the store and speak to the manager and mention, I mean, if you're going with your sister, or would you be going by yourself, or would you be taking
I
your
would be
dad?
going with my dad. We go
Okay, yeah.
together, because
No,
in
Xander.
our house, for some
No.
weird reason, if one of us goes and the other one doesn't, stuff gets forgotten. But between
Gotcha.
the two of us, we remember stuff. Even with a shopping list in our
Mhm.
hand, like we'll have a shopping list and be like, "All right, we're getting this and this and this and this," and then we'll get home and we'll be like,
We forgot something."
There's 3 things on this list we didn't get."
Yeah, Curious and More Curious
Oh,
put up a
Cinder!
video the other day on making your own hand sanitizer.
Oh yeah, that's actually pretty easy.
Yeah,
Well, okay, I've already advised a couple people in Squalmart before everything went through the floor. My understanding, and it's based on some reasonably decent information, is that the hand sanitizers are essentially ineffective on coronavirus. That soap is a much better antiviral because hand sanitizers are antibacterials. So it's better to use the soap to wash the virus off your hands, and
Yeah.
then
Well, the main
that
thing
sort
with
of
the
thing.
hand sanitizers is they have the alcohol in them. So
Well, my
basically, the
understanding.
alcohol is supposed to create an environment that the virus can't survive in.
Well, I've got some Captain Morgan on top of my shelf.
Not high enough proof. What you
That
want to
reminds
do?
me.
What you
Isn't
want to do is get yourself some aloe vera gel, some like clear aloe vera gel, and a 90% rubbing alcohol. And there's a ratio of like 3
Yep.
to 1 or something. And you mix that up, and that's a high enough concentration of alcohol to make it basically be hand sanitizer.
Yeah, well, that's what Curious and More Curious was doing, and he was saying a 2-to-1 ratio because you need it to still be about 60% alcohol to kill
Mhm.
the virus.
Interesting
Okay,
thing that's
okay.
going on here in Atlanta. There's a distillery in downtown Atlanta
Oh, yeah.
has stopped, or they've not stopped production, but they've changed their production, and they are making hand sanitizer and giving it away for free,
Yeah, I saw that.
which pretty cool.
I mean, bully for them. Yeah, absolutely.
what was fun in my house is my dad and my sister have been hoarding thermometers, and I basically had to fight them to get a thermometer for myself because I was like, you two do not want me stuck in this house trying to figure out whether or not this is just a regular cold or the virus. One of you needs to figure out where you've got the thermometers hiding.
I
you
hope it's not
overshadowed.
hiding where I just thought of.
No,
And
no. But the thing was is that I went looking for a thermometer online. You can't find one under $45.
Jeepers.
It's-
It does seem like
shit,
people are
man.
being gouged now, doesn't it?
I want to see.
well,
Let's see.
in that
Five.
in that instance, I think it's probably the expensive ones that is all
That are
left.
left. Yeah, because
You know.
everybody got all the cheap ones. Now, watch I say this, and Diana will find one for $5.
Well, I wonder what kinds of thermometers are available for $45. Mercury thermometers are no longer available, are they?
I don't think so.
No,
No.
but you've always got people who have to make it, grander and spiffier, and so when they do that, they add more price tag to it. Like
Here, I'm gonna look
some
over
of
here.
them probably can remember different people's profiles or some numbnut thing like that.
Well,
Whoa!
Amazon isn't, but
Okay.
eBay is all private people, so
Let me see. Price from high to low, because this was on. Oh my word! At Walgreens, we have a ReadyScan infrared thermometer for $80.
See, it's infrared and all that. It's not just the kind you stick in your mouth and.
Right, and then you have the brown no-touch forehead thermometer for $70.
Yep.
Let's go a little further down, or a little farther down, however you say that. I'm not sure how that's pronounced. Okay.
it depends how far north you live. Since you're
Yeah.
up in Pittsburgh, it's farther.
Okay, Vicks Comfort Flex digital thermometer for $15. Okay, I'm going to go to page 2 of 2. I want to find the really cheap ass thermometers. Oh my, oh my. Okay, the cheapest price I see is for a Veridian Healthcare Professional Digital Thermometer for probe covers. So that's not what we're looking for.
Oh no, yeah, yeah.
ProCheck 30-second flexible dishwasher safe digital thermometer. Okay, for $450. That's the
Is it
cheapest one.
in stock? Is it in stock?
Yeah.
That's what I was running into.
Yeah.
Okay, this one is not sold in stores, and there's nothing on there that says not in stock.
Click and make sure there's not multiple buttons.
Sure.
Because there was one that I found at that price that had 2 different colors, because apparently colors for thermometers are a thing. And when I clicked on them separately, it told me they were out of stock.
Okay, this one might be out of stock online.
Yeah, that was the problem I kept running into. Was like I started with the cheapest ones, and I kept looking, and it would say it was out of stock. Now you can find some places that do have them in stock, but they won't come until next month.
Mm-hmm.
I
Which,
would
when you're
think that
trying,
these people would say, not in stock on that grid listing. Now, here are a whole bunch above this one that say not sold in stores, out of stock online, not sold in stores, out of stock online. I'm surprised that the one I just mentioned didn't do that. And you had to click on it and go there to find out, because I'm looking here and yeah, okay, $12 is out of stock online.
Yeah, be mindful makes an important point there that the flu and corona have different symptoms. And that Sloth
Okay,
Girl
then.
was reading to me yesterday just what the symptoms of the corona are. Just because I've got the chronic allergies that basically I've always got a cough and head cold symptoms.
Yeah. And see, I was at the hospital on Wednesday. So last
Oh
Wednesday.
my.
Um,
Okay, according to this thing, I'm seeing even the $80 thermometer is out of stock online. Wow.
and if you go into the store, it's not likely to be there. It's because everybody is realizing that they have thermometers at home, but nobody can figure out where the hell they are. So they're like, why not just buy another thermometer? That's why we have 5 at my house.
Well, the other thing I've noticed is, at least here, it appears that the incidence of hoarding depends upon your zip code. Here, where it's a bit economically challenged, if you will, there's hoarding all over the place. They're hoarding almost everything. I go just a few miles to the west, maybe about 5 miles, and the socioeconomic status of the zip code is a bit better. There's almost no hoarding. Now, there's a correlation, but is there causation? I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not seeing that here because basically we've got 2 Walmarts that are a reasonable drive here. And one's kind of a crappy one in the lower income neighborhood, and one's in the newer, more upscale neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
And they're pretty much both picked over of just about anything useful.
Oh, well,
See,
one
and
thing
I
I
have to
did
wonder
forget.
how long that's going to last. When will saner heads prevail, if ever? I mean, I guess it depends on how long the virus itself lasts, how long the pandemic lasts.
Well,
But
at some
I mean, at
point,
a
the
certain
people who
point,
are
I'm going to
hoarding
be
the
running
toilet
out
paper.
of things. There's someone like I have some crazy huge number of Milky Way bars because one of my subscribers sent them to me. But
Yep.
I'm going to run out of real food before much longer.
Yeah.
What do I do? You know?
Oh, what do you
Yeah,
think? What do you think of beef brisket? Come on over. I'm going to be making some.
A little far, and I suspect travel will be
Yeah, they're
restricted.
doing a hell of a lot better job of handling things than we are.
Ugh.
Oh my.
Yeah.
Now, one thing I noticed a couple of things. I mean, number one, the stores involved in my little scenario are different. The hoarding store is a School Mart, and the non-hoarding store is a Giant Eagle, which is, I wouldn't call it upscale, but I'd call it pricier grocery store. That may or may not have something to do with it. I don't know. The other thing I'm thinking is that this whole hoarding thing, a lot's going to depend upon the people who are doing the. If we can get it through their heads that stuff will be there, that would be a good thing. I don't know if it's possible, because what I'm looking forward to, and not in a way that would indicate that I want this happening, but I'm anticipating that. Okay, the original hoarding went on, and the shelves were emptied, and then, as I have seen in the School Mart, as I've seen elsewhere, as the restocking is going on, people are climbing over each other and grabbing stuff out of the hands of the stockers before the stockers can even put the stuff on the shelves,
and
because they they are so afeared that the stuff
all
is
there
going
is.
to disappear. They're saying,
Yeah.
I'm guessing here.
Prophecy is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Well, yeah,
they're
and-
hoarding in anticipation of other people hoarding.
Well, and
After
that's
they leave
part
the
of my
store.
problem is I wanted to be a saner head that prevails, but unfortunately, because everyone else decided to flip out, I'm like, well, now I have to flip out too, because
Yes,
otherwise I
yeah.
won't eat. You know,
Well,
it's
There
like,
you are.
It's a self-perpetuating cycle. How does it end?
That's
The only way I
well,
can
I
see
think-
it ending offhand.
the way it ends is what Walmart is doing is they're shutting the store down so they can stock, so that when people come in the next day they'll see, hey, there's stuff on the shelves, and then they'll shut down at 8 o'clock and they'll stock again, and then the next day there's more on the shelves, and then people maybe in at least some areas will get the idea that hey, stuff is not going to grind to a halt. They're still going to get things. They may not get in everything that you would want, like your primo whatever toilet paper, but they might have crappy Walmart toilet paper so that you won't have to worry. Same
Well,
with
and-
spaghetti and stuff.
Well, what I think's going to work
I hate
out.
to say it,
is-
but maybe we should even consider rationing just so that people don't have the ability to
Yeah,
hoard.
sort of.
Yeah,
yeah,
well,
that's
some
true,
people
too.
already are.
Yeah,
Walmart-
stores are
No, but
limiting
I
how
don't-
many
I don't
people can
mean the
buy, but
stores.
a person
I
could
don't
keep
mean
going
the
back.
stores.
Well, I know what you're saying. You're speaking of, let's say, federally mandated
Yeah.
rationing or something like that. Yeah, I see where you're coming
I
from.
don't necessarily trust the government that way, but what else are you going to do? Because honestly, at this point, I suspect I'm going to be wiping my ass with a newspaper before much longer.
Well, what I'm counting
not-
on is that toilet paper is very bulky. So pretty soon the people who are hoarding it are going to run out of room to store it.
I'm halfway wondering if some of the people with a little bit more money than others are going to rent storage space for their toilet paper.
Oh,
I mean,
I'm
I
sure
wouldn't
some
put it
people
past
They
people.
will.
don't have to rent
but-
it. They already have their own like huge 6-car garages if they're that rich.
yeah.
Yeah, there you go. There you
And
go.
you know, toilet paper is a minor
Yep.
inconvenience. I'm worried about we haven't been able to locate food, just
Yeah,
food for like
Yeah.
the past 2 weeks.
Yeah,
and,
my-
and
Like,
here's
we're fine right now, but we kind of want to stock up so that if we hit another time period where it's like, and we're not going to go nuts and like hoard stuff, but my dad and I are like, let's buy a month's worth of food
Yeah.
and like just.
well,
be
that's what I would
careful
try to
about
do
food.
anyway. Just to,
You
to
know,
make
you
room.
know,
Well,
you know
that's
what
what
I'm tempted to try to do that, and I don't know if I'm the only one who's thought of this, but I know where there's an Army Navy store that's not too far away. I could try to stock up on MREs.
Oof.
that's something.
Oh,
but
tasty!
I did
no, but
what
I mean,
I
that's the
did.
thing. Okay, I mean, number one, I've actually enjoyed every MRE I've ever had the opportunity to try. Maybe I'm weird like that. I don't know, but I've
they're
enjoyed
actually not
but
that bad.
also, I mean, if
Yeah.
no one else has thought of it and you need food that bad,
Yeah.
Well, I
Yeah.
think the people who
yeah.
are the preppers have probably already thought of it. So I don't know if that stuff got picked over. Although, yeah,
No,
actually,
there's-
the MREs aren't that bad. My uncle used to work for the National Guard, so he used to get some of them, like,
Mhm.
when they were considering them being close to their expiration date. And it's like, yeah, even when they considered them to be too close to the expiration date to use,
Yeah,
there
see,
wasn't anything wrong with them.
My-
I cannot find SpaghettiOs or the Chef Boyardee shit anymore. It's like the entire soup aisle is gutted.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh yes,
Well,
yes.
that's what I was saying was like, people were like, don't panic. And I'm like, I'm not panicking. I'm just buying food. I bought a case of water and $40 worth of canned food the first week after it hit my state. And then the second week I said, okay, got another payday, got a little extra money. I'm going to go buy some more. And I bought more veggies because they got veggies in. They got some, because like when I went, like the pickings were slim. People were all the good veggies had already been taken, so I had to get green beans. And then when the next week came on, oh, they've got corn again. So now I'm going to grab some corn and some asparagus or whatever other veg. Oh, let me stop sharing. That's my video game.
Okay.
Well,
That's
that's what I've noticed here is the fresh produce, stalks of celery, bags of carrots. Those you can find And
Yeah, because
part of it may be because, oh my, how do I say this without sounding horribly classist or racist or whatever you want to call it? But people around here tend not to cook the way people in areas that are better off do.
Well, and
And usually it's because they can't afford the equipment to cook.
So we're
Yeah.
talking ramen and peanut
also-
butter here.
And also, like, if you're poor and you're working 18 hours a day, do you really want to go home and cook? You're probably
Well, that too.
magically appear and then go to bed.
Well,
Yeah,
that's
'cause,
another thing. I
prior
do
to
have
this-
a fair bit of basmati rice here, and I'm a damn good stir fry cook. So,
Oh my.
you know,
the
I mean,
rice-
you can make a stir fry for very little money, provided you're willing to have frozen vegetables.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, the
thing is
rice.
that, like, right now, I literally can't cook. I can cook for me, but I cannot cook for the others right now because whatever I've got, like I said, I don't think it's Corona, but whatever I've got, I can't give to my family.
Okay, point.
Yeah, because I am right now, I'm not kidding when I say I'm isolating myself in my room because with my sister's thyroid problems and the fact that my dad is 66 and uses a CPAP, even a cold right now puts them at risk because they could be even more susceptible to something worse.
Yeah.
So, like, right now, my dad is doing all of the cooking, and it's really, really rough on him because he does still work at a warehouse job. But
No,
yeah,
the interesting
go ahead.
the interesting thing is that here, even the barest staples like rice, gone.
Oh yeah,
I was really lucky to find a 15-pound bag of short grain rice, which I didn't necessarily need right away, but I figured, okay, this thing grinds on for more than a week or two. I'm going to need it eventually.
Yeah.
So I grabbed it. And there were 2 more bags there, but not only because I couldn't carry 45 pounds of rice home with me. That was not the only reason that I left the other 2 bags there. It's like, okay, you know, somebody else is going to want this shit too.
yeah.
But there's going to be some rice pudding in my future. Trying to remember.
My family is about to start eating Chinese on a regular basis once I can cook again because I suspect that our neighborhood Vietnamese store is Chinese and Vietnamese and Cambodians probably what's going to be on our menu because I suspect that if we go in there, there's actually going to be food.
Oh, but it's the Chinese virus. You don't want to eat there.
Yeah, anybody who thinks that can fuck off.
I
Because
know. Although what's funny to me is the number of emails I've gotten from things like DoorDash saying, here's how we're keeping you safe and still delivering you food made by other people who might be sick.
Yeah, but that's the only option some people have, though, unfortunately.
Well, that's not my
Sloth
point.
Girl
I'm
was
just
saying-
saying. is that-
Yeah, but it is. It's like, yeah, no,
Sloth
I don't
Girl
want
was-
anybody else fixing my food right now. Thanks.
Why is it broken?
Sloth
Very.
Girl was saying that, you know, she was going to start baking bread because it was getting hard to find it. And then found out that, yeah, she couldn't even buy yeast.
Somebody's already thought of it.
Yeah, you know, I know a place to get yeast, but you won't like it.
Yeah.
Ew.
This reminds me of when Scientist Mel kept us roaring on an like we had like a show, and then we started talking, and Scientist Mel was telling us this story about how they had taken yeast from women and used it to make beer.
Yeah, I heard somebody did that with bread.
Let me guess, Gwyneth Paltrow was behind it.
Probably.
Actually,
You know, I
there
wanna
was a
know
string on
now.
Twitter not more than a week or so ago that was talking about, well, no, a couple of weeks back, about women making bread from the yeast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's got to be from some upscale Moomy.
Oh, I don't know.
Right?
It could be pagans. It could be Wiccans doing the Earth Mother
Yeah,
thing.
I could see some pagans.
It was probably more like a vegan territory type person.
Did Diana freeze?
I think she did.
Ruh-roh.
Yeah.
We
I
broke
don't know.
Diana.
Sometimes with her, it's hard to tell.
We broke
No, she's
Diana.
frozen.
She is definitely frozen.
Yeah. Well, we haven't seen a cattail in a while, so she must be frozen.
Yeah, it was funny the other day. I came home, the first night that they Monday night. I was coming home and I'm like, oh, there's some bread and there's milk. I'm gonna grab a gallon and a loaf of bread. And so I buy it, and I come home, put it in the fridge. I don't say anything to my boyfriend. He goes to work the next day, comes home, and he's bought 2 gallons of regular milk, a gallon of chocolate milk, a gallon of sweet tea, and a gallon of green tea. And I'm like, where are you putting all that? He's like, the fridge. I'm like, how are you going to fit that all in the fridge when there's already a gallon of milk in there? He's like, you bought milk? I'm like, yeah. I was like,
Go on. Well, what's funny is that if you're lactose intolerant, it's your lucky day because that's all that was on the shelf was Lactaid milk.
Yeah. The first time I went to try and buy milk, it was all the lactates and all that really expensive stuff that I wasn't even going to touch.
Well,
Yeah,
I mean, it's not that much more expensive, really.
Sloth Girl
What I
did
did,
manage to.
what surprised me, like all these people are going, oh no, it's the being sick apocalypse, and yet the orange juice aisle was full. And I'm like, I'm thinking vitamin
Yeah.
C is a thing you're gonna want, so I stocked up on the OJ.
Yep. Yeah, Sloth Girl managed to get a couple loaves of bread because she started asking the managers at the convenience store about the truck's route. So she tracked it back to, the previous 2 stores and managed to get there 15 minutes after the truck had left. So they actually had something on stock.
So which enemy exactly was this bread truck fighting that it managed to defeat?
Huh?
Well, you asked about its route. I figure if it routed the enemy, there must have been.
Yeah.
I'll just be over here.
Yeah, that one didn't hit quite right.
I don't know.
It wasn't a bad one. I just didn't get the reference right away.
Me either.
It's always been a sore point for me because I was raised with root rather than route. So.
Oh, right.
I don't know.
Yeah, well, again, the Midwest being the middle of the country, the stuff kind of gets mixed together. So a lot of the stuff I've tended to hear multiple pronunciations for throughout my life.
Yeah. I don't know. I just I'm sitting in the background going, I don't want to be a panic buyer because that means nothing for the next person, but people are already panic buying. So,
yeah, that ship has sailed, unfortunately.
Yeah. And unfortunately, I was not in a place to go and get all of our grocery shopping done.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I feel lucky that it was just kind of by chance that since we had just moved and we're just setting up the kitchen here, we were stocking up on stuff. So it's like about a week before things started getting crazy, we pretty much had everything stocked up for about a month. Just because we've got a deep freeze, so that's about what we normally keep on hand.
I kind of wish I had a Darth Vader helmet so I could walk around outside making breathing noises just to, freak people out a little. I've also thought it would be fun. And I realize this one could totally be illegal, but it might be fun to start a flash mob of people who start coughing and sneezing in a public place.
Oh,
I know it's probably illegal as hell, but the idea amuses me.
Sloth Girl was saying your neighbors might not appreciate if you go out in your Renaissance costume with a wagon screaming, "Bring out your dead" at sunrise.
I've been having "Bring out your dead" thoughts in my head too.
Oh, I would love to do that though, and I have just the outfit for it.
No, I have been severely like last weekend. I was severely tempted to do the coughing sneezing thing because so you all are familiar with Walmart. I am a customer host. I stand at the door, check receipts, tell people where things are. We are in a community area that is very diverse, and there's a group of people who do not understand the concept of personal space. And they want to show me something on their phone, and so they will get right next to me and try and shove their phone in my face in order to try and show me
Yeah.
the thing that they want. And I'm like, back the fuck up. Like you already don't smell too good because of reasons they can't control, which is not never mind,
Oh, yeah.
never mind, I'm gonna stop. But it's like I've just wanted to sit there and start going because I can cough really bad sounding because of
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
Mm.
Well, that's one of the reasons why I generally don't have a camera live, because I'm coughing every few minutes, and like I say,
Mm.
that's just my allergies. That's always happening.
Yeah, this is not allergies for me.
Yeah. But I mean,
I miss
now I go out in
allergies.
public, the least little cough, and it's like everybody's glaring at me.
Oh, I I know how bad it's gonna be when I go out just with my allergies because I sneeze up a storm and everybody thinks it's all the same thing.
Yeah.
So
I don't know. I'm just wondering if there's going to be food riots at some point. Wouldn't shock me.
I
I-
hope we're sensible enough to start rationing before that happens.
Yeah.
Well,
I don't really
I mean,
think
in
so,
this government,
because
rationality, expecting rationality.
I know, but if I don't hope for a few things
yeah.
at this point,
I want
I
to
would-
show something funny to lighten the
Well,
mood.
it's like the supply chain really hasn't been disrupted. So,
Oops, hold on,
I
did it wrong.
think that the stores will keep getting stuff in, and people, are at some point going to have to
go.
stop buying stuff because they'll be out of space or out of money or something.
yeah,
Yeah, especially people have to work. If they can't work, they're not going to have any money to buy stuff. So,
That is actually one of the benefits of being a YouTube creator and getting all my money from Patreon. I work here.
That's one of those things that I've been thinking about. Is some of you guys that are full timers or got it pretty good, because your content's going to get viewed. In fact, I was watching one of your videos earlier. The thing you did with that Hall guy, yeah, the kind of the discussion you did with the Hall. His name was Hall or Hull.
Tim Hull.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you gonna
That
do
guy
any more?
is such a butt munch. He got to a point where I would make what I considered a completely valid point, and he'd go, "Yeah, that again." And I'm like, "Dude, that's a valid point. It's like critical to what I'm saying to you." And he's like, "Nyeh, nyeh, 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 nyeh." And I finally said, "Well, if you're not going to even listen to what I have to say, fuck you." So
Yeah.
oh, hey, got a couple of friends in here, Niggles Bot and Tanya. Tanya is a friend of mine from way back over 10 years ago when I was living in Minnesota.
You mean real,
nice.
like face-to-face friends?
Yeah.
meat space.
Yeah,
friend.
like I used to pick her up from work every Thursday night, and we'd rent a movie and get some takeout and go back to my apartment.
Yeah, it's nice when you can actually have like offline friends watch your stuff. I don't have very many, but I always appreciate them when they do.
Yeah,
My sister watched
best offline friend moved away recently, which is really frustrating. And now, of course, I can't even go to my game nights anymore. So
Yeah.
my only physical contact with another living being is when my cat decides it's lap sits time.
Yeah, one of my friends watches every stream. She may not get to it while it's on, but she watches every stream and video, and it's nice.
Well, a friend of mine got me started watching this show called The Mentalist. I don't know if you're familiar with it. and I'm really enjoying it. So at least I have that to do.
It's been a while, but I remember the premise, and
It's basically Monk without the OCD.
Okay, yeah. Basically, I can suggest you into thinking a certain way, or by by certain signals that other people don't pick up on. I can tell, kind of get a vague idea of what you're thinking or feeling.
Well, I mean, it's all about solving murder cases. So, like, it's a lot of, oh, the suspect gave themselves away because they looked up into the left, which is a sign of guilt or some shit like that.
Yeah. And I mean, there's some truth to those, but
well, I mean, the whole thing is he had like a show where he pretended to be a psychic, doing cold readings on people, and then he's starting to use his powers for good instead of evil.
Well, that's basically the premise of the show Psych.
Mm.
That he wasn't actually a psychic. His dad had just taught him to be extremely observant. So he made people believe he was psychic, but, you know, he really didn't have anything.
Psych was kind of cute.
Well.
So anyway, Nigglesbot is the one who did this other version of my avatar.
The one where that one. Who did the one with the Robo-Ceratops that does this the whole time?
Oh, that was done by Trey Baldwin.
Okay.
Or Trey Baldwin actually did the still of it, but Bad Temper Badger put it on the surfboard and animated it.
Gotcha.
Yeah, Trey. Oh, I would like to have money to commission Trey. Trey's artwork I just love it.
There's so many artsy people where I would just love to throw money at them and be like, you don't even have to draw me something, but here's money.
The problem is having the money.
I've had a couple of people ask me to do some animated stuff for them, and usually I'm in the middle of a really big project when they ask, so I'm like, maybe. But there have been a couple where I'm like, what do you want me to do? And they give me the vaguest description in the world of what they want, and I'm like, but what do you actually want? And they can't really tell me, and I'm like, well, I can't really do this project. Or they ask me for something so goddamn complicated, and I'm like, dude, I'm not Pixar, I'm not ILM. What are you expecting here?
People generally don't have a sense of what goes into it or what communication needs to be done. I'm a little bit bad about being slightly vague, but I'm the kind of person where it's like, if I'm communicating with an artist and I didn't communicate myself properly, I won't blame the artist, I'll blame myself because I didn't communicate properly. But the problem is that that's not how most people think. They want you to magically read their brain and be like, this is how I see it in my head.
Oh, yeah.
And you need to do it that way.
That's why if I ever ask someone for something like that, usually musical help, because that's not where my talent is, I will provide tons upon tons of examples, reference material, make it like this. In fact, make it like this from this time code to that time code and ignore all the rest of it, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Well, and I have that problem a lot with building stuff for people. And even for Sloth Girl sitting up here, she wanted me to do some more shelves and that, and I bought her a sketch pad. I said, you draw it out and I'll build it, but I'm not going to start building without some kind of picture because, somehow we don't quite communicate very well when we're trying to get ideas across like that.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, even just from my own work, you should see the folders upon folders upon folders of just imagery of different kinds that are reference for what I am ultimately going to build. There have been times I've tried to create a bit of technology, like a vehicle or something, and some part of my brain just doesn't understand how this bit of mechanical is attached to that bit of mechanical and this, that, and the other thing. And so seriously, just having all that reference helps so much.
Yeah. And I'm lucky to have an artist friend who's willing to trade, basically. I make lace, and he basically is like, I love it, I want it. So basically, pretty much if I'm in a lace making mood, I can go to him and get some art. But one of the things I enjoy is that because we're friends, we hit a different wavelength. And while I'm not always the best at communicating what I want, he picks up on it and will often take my idea and be like, "Hey, do you like this? I think I can do it better." And by the time we're done, I have something way better than what I started out with. And we're on the same page. And that's one of the reasons why I like working with them so much, is because, like, by the end, I get better than what I wanted.
Well, and there's been a lot of times where I've said to people, I need new music to listen to. And I try to get them to understand, like, I'm like, I need suggestions. And I'll post a whole bunch of songs and go, I need something that is like this, that hits these particular criteria. And they will find like one song that kind of a little bit maybe technically meets one of the 6 criteria I laid out. And they go, there, it's perfect. And I'm like, no, it's not. This isn't even close. You hit one aspect of it. And it's like I can never get anyone to draw that Venn diagram in their head of what I'm looking for. So frustrating.
Yeah.
But oh well, what you gonna do? It's not like they actually owe me suggestions, but I haven't found any new music, even if it's not contemporary, just new to me music to listen to in such a long time.
Yeah.
Hey, Diana.
My Comcast seems to have gone away, and I'm not sure how much data I have on this guy, on this phone. So I'm not going to be around much. But yeah, I cannot seem to connect to Comcast at all. I just thought I would let you guys know. So, and you didn't think I vaporized or anything.
Yeah, we saw you froze up for a couple minutes before you disappeared.
Okay, then.
Yeah, and your microphone is pretty terrible on whatever it is you're using. Because we're hearing a ton of echo, and the echo is louder than your voice.
Figures.
I'm assuming
it's
it's
my
a
Android.
phone.
Yeah, so I'll drop off. I just thought I'd let you know, and hopefully by tomorrow, I hope.
Yeah, hopefully they'll get everything patched back up for you. Okay, well, thanks for letting us know what's going on.
Sure, sweetie. And be good, have fun. I'll drop off.
Night, Diana.
Have fun storming the castle. Oh, hey, did you watch The Princess Bride yet?
Storming the
castle. Oh, hey, did you watch The Princess
Bride? She dropped before she could answer.
Dang.
How
I could not believe that was a gap in her cultural knowledge.
Yeah, like even I watched Princess Bride, and the list of things I wasn't allowed to watch growing up was like extremely long.
Well, and that's one of the few movies that there isn't even an age gap. It's like everybody I know who's from 20 to 50 has watched it.
Yeah, I mean, the only bit of that movie that even dates it at all is the video game that he's playing when his grandfather comes in, because it's clearly like old school Atari or something.
Yeah, it's 8-bit graphics.
Other than that, is a completely timeless movie.
When I met my boyfriend, he hadn't seen it. So I made him. I don't know.
Actually, I think he might have a Purple Rain poster somewhere, but big deal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can watch the movie and never have a sense of, wow, this is old.
Yeah, same with the book, too.
No,
the book's pretty cool.
I think she's
I'm surprised by how different the book was to the movie, because it is a very different book.
It is, but for some reason, I love both, because usually I don't like it when a movie goes too far away from the book, but both work in their own rights, and I love both of them.
Well,
I think it would have been hard to add all of the narration into the movie, I think, is part of it.
Well, and it was a very different tone. I mean, the theme of the book was more about like misremembering your childhood or not realizing that some of your amazing memories have baggage attached, which would not have worked for the movie, honestly. And
No,
you
it
know
wouldn't
what?
have.
Like my philosophy on if you're going to watch a movie based on a book is to watch the movie first, because if you go in expecting the book on screen, you're going to be disappointed going to
Oh
be.
yeah.
Yeah.
You know, so I mean, the fact that I read the book literally decades
Yeah, she's
after
saying
seeing
the
the
other way
movie
around.
really helped enjoy the book and leave the movie being the classic that it is in my head.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because, like, I saw something going around, and it says that people. It basically said people don't expect every
Never
word and
watched the
every
movie. I couldn't
line
get
from the
into it.
book to be in the movie. They just expect the main theme to be the same, the
No, I tried to.
animations to be the same,
Couldn't
stuff
couldn't get
like
past the
that.
first like 10 minutes of it.
And it was like that's
Cat
kind
and
of
I
how
tried to
I
watch Hunger
feel
Games.
a lot of times. Is if I read the book and I watch the movie and there's very very little in common, I'm like, why'd you even bother with the book?
Well, I mean, that was part of the problem with Starship Troopers, of course, is it's barely anything at all like the book. And it's a decent movie, but if they called it something other than Starship Troopers, it would have been a better movie.
I
Yeah.
agree. That's the only thing I had against the movie really was it had nothing to do with the book.
Mm-hmm.
If they
Well, there were
hadn't
some
implied it was
superficial
based on a
similarities.
Heinlein book, it probably would have been fine on its own.
Well, and I don't understand buying book rights to something and then like not doing, and it doesn't, like I said, I don't expect exactly the same. But if you're looking at it and going, how in the hell does this relate to the book? Why'd you buy the book rights?
Well,
Well,
it's
the reason
producers doing what producers do. They don't care about the artistic vision, they care about the money. And so if they think that something that's in a book won't sell, they insist you change it.
Well, and the other thing is that just by buying the title to something, they can make back their entire investment in the opening weekend before there have been enough reviews out for people to know it sucks.
That is true. Because I mean, there were some movies that I was like, yay, I would, before I started realizing that I would be disappointed every time. I'd be like, yay, my favorite book is going out to a movie.
Yeah, oh, I really hope no one ever, ever, ever tries to make Stranger in a Strange Land into a movie, because it would not work on screen. Would not.
No.
And they would just fuck it up and I'd be angry.
I I remember seeing the advertisements for Wrinkle in Time and crossing my fingers and being like, please don't be Disney again. Please don't be Disney again. Please don't be Disney again. And then I was like, nope, not watching that shit.
You know, I had read that book in like junior high or something, and I thought it was okay. But then I read it again quite recently and was like, this is so bad. I just, Of course, it didn't help that there was all the like religious theme thing.
Yeah, like the religious themes don't get to me as badly, and I think that's probably why I still enjoy it. I liked as I was growing up that I picked up more and more from that book and all the little things in it, because there's a lot of symbolism in it. I also had all 4 books, and the last couple of books, the 4th one I hate now because it was basically sending the twins back into Noah's time. But the other 2 books I really liked, because they were dealing with alternate realities a little bit, and like if you do good things, you can change the ultimate reality kind of thing, and that to me was kind of fun. Are they as good as I thought they were when I was growing up? But still, I looked at Disney and I was just like, Disney's gonna wreck that. There's no way Disney's gonna do any justice to that.
You know how they're remaking and reimagining everything now?
Ugh,
Do you remember the petition specific, like it was going around, do not remake The Princess Bride.
Oh,
Don't
yeah.
even try. And I know that Zemeckis said that you will not be reimagining Back to the Future either. That like there's a couple of folks stepping up and saying, you are not going to fuck with our childhoods.
Yeah, and I mean, to me, if you're going to do a remake of something, you need to be able to do it in such a way that it's better than the first one, and you can't do that with Princess Bride.
Yeah.
Well,
Well, and
can't
also,
do
I
that
mean,
with
if
Princess
you're
Bride.
going to remake something, personally, what I would prefer is like if there's an older movie and it's like back in an era when special effects were shit. You know, if you're going to remake it, try to remake everything exactly the way it was, except with Go Faster Stripes. Just make it prettier. That's all I want.
Yeah.
You know? But they're never going to do that. They always have to try to change it in some fashion that makes it no longer what I love, no longer that pillar of my childhood. And I'm like, what's the point?
Yeah, like if you're gonna take out the parts that made everybody fall in love with it, then what's the point?
Mm-hmm.
And I have a feeling that they're gonna do that with Princess Bride. Now,
Well, no, they're not.
is them remake? Well, let's just say, for hypotheticals, that they decided to do the wrong thing and
I just
do
don't think
it.
they should.
There's
but
no,
the problem is people love movies for different reasons.
yeah.
So
But here's the
things
thing:
that-
is that's not gonna wreck my childhood. But I'm gonna take one look at it and be like, nope, not watching that. Like, it's not gonna wreck my childhood for them to remake it, but there's no way in hell I'm gonna watch it.
Well, and I think that's the only thing that would get them to stop doing all these reboots is if people would just start boycotting these movies on their opening weekend.
But there are all
Well-
these people who go just automatically because it's part of like geek culture to try to get to that midnight screening on opening night
Yeah.
to see
Yeah,
this, that, and
well-
the other thing. Even if you know it's going to suck, they're still going to go.
Well, there might be a little bit less of that going around over the next few weeks, unfortunately.
Yeah, but it'll start back up again. You know,
It'll
it will.
start back up, yeah, but maybe it'll move them to a different trend in the middle of this. Maybe,
Yeah,
hopefully.
I don't think so. Although that's an interesting thought there because all these releases are planned out so far in advance. Yeah, what's that going to do to movies that wind up releasing this month?
I don't know. If I was a studio, like head of a studio, I'd say, you know what? We're going to hold on to this stuff until we can release it when people might actually go. And they could probably make bank doing it.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, but they already have contracts with the theaters to provide these movies on certain dates.
I'm
Oh,
certain.
shit. That reminds me. I really wanted to go see that Top Gun sequel. And oh, well.
What movies are coming out this month?
There was another one I want to see. I forget what it's called, but it's got Ryan Reynolds in it, where he discovers that he's an NPC in a video game, and it's an online game, very similar to Grand Theft Auto, and it's like about to, like the servers are about to shut off. It's about to be like deprecated or whatever, and he has to figure out what to do about it.
Wasn't that the plot for the second Wreck-It Ralph movie?
I wouldn't know. I never saw it.
Yeah.
That kind of sounds similar. Let's see. I need dates, people. Because I'm curious now.
Yeah, I've got a feeling that the theaters might be closing considering how many, restaurants have wound up closing for the duration, whatever that will be.
We have somebody here in Jacksonville who's basically pointing their fingers and laughing. They were like, "Ah, you didn't go to the drive-thru enough, and it closed down. And don't you wish you had it now?"
Oh, a bit of information that I've heard is that Walmart, is going to be hiring temporary workers during all this, which is, I mean, it sounds odd, but given how bad the stores have been tore up, they need people to restock and things after the stores are closed. So they're going to hire temporary people so that people who can't work because of this, like because they work in, you know, the restaurant industry or something like that, can still make some money.
Well, that's one good bit of news, but yeah,
Wait,
and
what?
apparently a lot of people can now sign up for temporary unemployment who wouldn't have otherwise normally been eligible.
Okay, hold on. There's something. Apparently, California is going into lockdown. Let's see. Stay home except for essential needs. Let's see. So it goes into effect today. In place until further notice. What can I do? What's open? Essential services remain open, such as gas stations, pharmacies, food, grocery stores, etc. Banks and laundromat. What's closed? Dine-in restaurants, bars, nightclubs, entertainment venues, gyms and fitness studios, public events and gatherings, and convention centers. Where does this apply through the entire state of California? It does not say how long it's supposed to last. But yeah, apparently the state's in lockdown now.
Yeah, well, here the state hasn't stepped in and actually said they have to do it, but they are basically recommending that. So they're trying to get the businesses to do it voluntarily without them actually pushing for it.
Yeah, we really should, like, my city alone really should be on some sort of lockdown because our cases are doubling really, really quickly. And
Yeah.
it is going.
Apparently in Michigan, they have already pushed to close all the bars and restaurants.
Yeah, we have closed the bars and restaurants here already, and dining establishments are allowed to be open, but you have to, like, basically you cannot sit next to another person at another table. So they're staggering the tables.
They're recommending here only half capacity so they can always leave an empty seat between people.
I actually should have gone out to a restaurant before everything went into lockdown just so I could go into their bathroom and swipe a couple of rolls of their toilet paper, or barring that, a shit ton of napkins.
Yeah.
Maybe shit ton was the wrong word to use there.
Yeah, probably.
You know, that was the funny thing the other day. My boyfriend came home from work, and I asked him something because he brought back some more supplies and things, and he's like, "But the toilet paper is still wiped out."
Yeah,
she got it, and he didn't even realize he'd made a joke until after I said until I was already out the door getting the rolls of the toilet paper we had in the car, and he's like, "They're still wiped out."
Okay, so did he have to go to the shelter and adopt you for $3.14? Because you're a pirate kitty?
Even Sloth Girl's in the background groaning on that one. I heard that.
I thought of that one days ago, and I was trying to figure out how I was going to work it in.
Oh.
You know, I didn't get it at first. And then when Sloth Girl started growing, I'm like, pie, oh, duh.
Okay, yeah, Sloth Girl had found one earlier. How do you make a number 1 go away?
How?
You put a G in front of it and it's gone.
That's like not even a dad joke.
So
I'm supposed to make dad jokes. I raised kids that are in college now.
So
I found out that I do not have to worry about trying to make 2 weeks pay stretch through a whole month in April this year.
Yeah.
Because now I hope that they're smart and they don't fucking go back to the old rule after this is done. But for now, I'm just grateful that they're not shortchanging me on my pay because they've been doing that for 2 years to me now, and it's really, really crappy.
So it's almost 11:30, and I'm a little on the tired side, so I'm gonna take off.
Okay, we'll
All
catch
right.
you later.
Have fun
Thanks for
storming
coming
the
by.
castle.
Bye.
I forgot the ant joke. Oh, yeah. Sloth Girl's got another one. How do you tell the difference between a male ant and a female ant?
I've
You
heard
throw
this.
them in water and see if they float.
It's a girl ant.
If it sinks, it's female.
If it
Otherwise,
floats,
it's a
it's a
boy
boy
ant.
ant.
Oh, jeez. Yeah, my city really needs to do like a lockdown because I checked 3 days ago and we had like 4 cases of coronavirus and we're already up to 14 in my city. Like within less than a week's time span. So my city really should be doing lockdown. So should Orlando and Tampa, but I haven't been keeping up with them.
Well, they've been taking some decent measures here, and you know, yeah, it's unfortunate that people are just not behaving rationally.
Well, around here, there were a lot of people who were like hearing the news and they were like, let's go out in big groups and party. And it was just like, no, 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 no.
Yeah.
You
Well,
might
and there's
be
Well, you're in Florida also. There are people down there for spring break, and they're like,
not in
"Yeah, we're aware of
Jacksonville.
it, but we're not going to let it ruin our spring
Jacksonville
break."
is not a spring break place.
well, and there's this general mistrust of the media again going on,
Yeah.
where people just aren't.
And a fuck you, I got mine attitude.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm healthy, so what does it matter? And it's like,
Yeah.
you might be carrying it for one thing, and for another, this is knocking even healthy people out. Like,
Well, that's and the part of the thing is that they just don't believe the media because the current administration has pushed this whole fake news thing to the extreme, to the point where people just don't trust
Yeah.
media
yeah, and I
anymore.
mean, you
Well,
should
or
have
people
some,
just don't know who to believe.
Mhm.
and there are times where I struggle to figure out what's truth from fact, and I
Yeah.
use quite a bit of critical thinking skills. It's just like a lot of times it's like, where is this coming from and why? Is the two biggest questions I ask because
Mhm.
it's hard to sort out sometimes because everybody's got a bias now, and if you know what that bias is and why they have it, it can make more sense, but it takes
Yeah.
a lot of searching, and that's something that some people, even meaning to, don't have enough time for.
Yeah. Well, and if you're reading it on the internet, it's often not clear what the original source was, and like you say, do you have the time to track down the source of everything you read?
On top of Trump saying anything that he's not happy with is fake news. Because I've struggled with conversations with my dad where it was just like, well, they were bringing up the 2018 pandemic team leaving, and I was like, yeah, and when was that replaced? Because you and I both know that the best way to deal with something like this is not wait until not create the team when in the middle of it happening. It's to create the team before and have measures in place before this shit goes down.
Well, and one of the things they've quietly glossed over is, Trump is making these announcements that FEMA is handling this, they're on top of it. But before this started, he had never appointed a director to FEMA.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
So technically, I don't even know who's doing the job now. Yeah, the organization may still not have a director for all I know.
ooh,
Yeah,
yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and that's the thing is like you don't hire a pandemic team right as the pandemic is hitting. You have one in place so that the precautions and the preparations can begin so that, and granted it's the government. It's never going to be perfect. There's always going to be bureaucratic nonsense. But, you know, we could be doing a hell of a lot
yeah,
better.
yeah,
And
and
that requires preventative stuff.
yeah, that nobody's prepared for this, and the healthcare workers are running out of their basic supplies. There aren't enough masks and gloves.
Yeah, and also, we don't have there's rural areas who are going to be even worse than where I'm at because like I saw something where somebody was commenting that they have basically eight ICU beds in their entire hospital for their rural
Yeah.
community.
Well, and like low income people still don't have any kind of health insurance. So doctors won't even take them because they've got no way to pay for it. So they can't get tested even if they wanted to.
Oh yeah, and like I'm in the boat. They've started free testing and drive-through testing in my city, but you have to have a primary care physician. Well, I'm out. Like now, granted,
Yeah.
I think I need
Well,
to be
again,
tested,
that's
but
going to leave out most low income people who haven't been able to see a doctor on a regular basis.
yeah. And that's going to be the
Yeah.
people who we really need to be making sure we support because they're more likely to catch the really crappy versions
Yeah.
of it and pass it on.
Well, and we'd be stuck with that too because we just moved here. So neither of us has seen a doctor in the state.
I've heard that some places like yeah, there's free testing, but you have to have confirmed exposure.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
In our city, there's a screening process, and I understand you have to have a screening process, but the way I've seen a lot of these screening processes set up,
Mm-hmm.
it's like, that's not helpful at all.
Thank you for the sub, Niggle.
Um,
Nigglespot, is that how it's pronounced?
Hans, I see what you say about might be the Norwegian church will close, but don't think the Pentecostals or the Mormons would do it anytime soon. I don't know, and here's why. Um, the Mormon church is actually, I don't know what they're doing about like Sunday meetings, but they have actually um, canceled bringing in people for general conference. They general conference is the first weekend in April, and they're basically saying that the only people who can show up to general conference and this is a huge thing. Like when I was a kid, if you could get a general conference ticket, it was almost like a pilgrimage. And they're saying basically that the only people who will be showing up in the building for general conference are the people who are speaking. They've gotten rid of the choir.
They're gonna teleconference it type thing.
Yeah, they always teleconference it, but
Mhm.
like basically the choir is not going to be there, the organist isn't going to be there. They're using pre-recorded music. The only
Yeah. So
people
they're trying to
they're not,
minimize the number of people in the building.
yeah, and I don't know if they're extending that like to the church buildings or not. I'm hoping that they are, but I think they're actually taking it seriously because honestly, it hurts their bottom line. It hurts their bottom line if they lose people, especially because the elderly group are basically most of what they have left because everybody from the ages of 20 to about 45ish have basically said, fuck you, you lied to us, and left. So they're the only people still paying tithing are the elderly. So if they lose their elderly population, they don't have their money anymore. And I hate that that's the reason they're doing it, but I honestly think the Mormons would actually shut down shut down going to church. I know my dad's currently skipping church, and he says that most people are doing that anyways. So it might actually cost him more to keep the church buildings running. They've already shut down
We
the
had an
temples,
argument
which
for a while. He was trying to either get rid of the keyboard or lay on it.
I think something's going wrong with your mute button because we've been hearing you mumble a bit tonight.
No, it's just I have been forgetting to hit the mute button when Sloth Girl's been saying things to me. So
yeah,
Oh,
I
it's
figured
no
you were
problem.
talking to Sloth Girl, but they're actually closing the temples down. Like, you can go and get married, and you can get sealed to your family, but that's fucking it. Like, they've shut down baptisms for the dead. They've shut down endowments. They've shut down basically everything in most temples. So the reason for it's sucky, but they're actually taking it seriously.
Well, that's
Yeah,
good at
well-
least. I mean, like there are religious groups that are like, we're not shutting down, because God will protect us or something.
Mormons are
I suppose
weird.
it's better that at least they're doing the right thing for the wrong reason.
Mormons are weird. They actually take your physical health pretty seriously. They go about it the wrong way a lot of times, but they actually take your physical health very seriously. My mom was given every resource available through church to keep my sister in good physical health. Like, I'm fairly certain she would have gotten in trouble at church if she had been a neglectful mom who hadn't taken care of us. But like, it was pushed. It's like, if your kids are sick, go to the doctor. If they're, if make sure everybody's eating right. And like I said, they go by the word of wisdom, which is wonky and out of date, but they do care about physical health. So I'm not surprised that the Mormons are doing that at all.
I mean, there's a little evil voice inside of me that says let them do their stupid things, and if it costs them because of it, then so be it. But then there's that other voice in my head that goes, "That's bad. Don't say that."
I kind of wish that when the stock market fell, only the Mormon portfolios had been hit, but that's not how that works.
But yeah, that's a monetary. That's a wish of ill that's monetary. It's not like people literally dying, which is the thought that was, that's the thing I'm saying.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, the problem with this is, like we were saying earlier, that if somebody is infected, they could wind up spreading it to 100 other people before they ever show symptoms.
Right. Right, that's what I said. It's the evil voice in my brain talking.
Yeah, and I mean, there are certain leadership where I'm like, would really be better, but that's a bad thought, and I really shouldn't think that way. But, at the same token, there are some people, I know what I think I want to say, but I'm not saying it well. I wonder how high up or how far down the corruption goes, because I know the 12 are like the 12, the quorum of the 12 and the first presidency. Those people are obviously bad. They're very obviously bad. They're scammers. They're playing a con. They know they are. Like, I honestly think that they really know what they're doing, and they're playing a con game.
Yeah, and that's always my question with any of these religious groups is like, how many of them are just scamming people, and how many of them sincerely believe the stuff they're preaching?
Yeah, And
you know, no
like,
matter how bad it is.
I
yeah,
don't know. I don't know too much about the Mormon Tony Morris, or is that's Jehovah's Witness?
actually, Amiga, what Mormons have down here is cattle ranches mostly. And also they have enough money and enough land to actually build a city from the ground up with 500,000 people. I don't know whether or not they're still going through with it and they're just being quiet about it, or because it caused them so much bad publicity, they backed away from doing that project. So the Scientologists own Clearwater, but over near Disneyland, there's a huge parcel of land that the Mormon Church owns and can build on, and they can comfortably build a city for 500,000 people that is self-sustaining. I just don't know. I just don't know any information about that because
I
they
don't know. By
on
the modern definition of city, I don't think that is self-sustaining at all. I don't think any city can sustain itself these days.
Well, okay, I say self-sustaining, but I mean they were talking about like building the malls
Yeah.
themselves and like because I mean the Mormon Church. I used to say they have 100 billion. I'm guessing that
It's
that's
more than that.
I'm guessing that the original estimate that I heard of 300 billion is actually spot on. I used to
Yeah.
think it was closer to 100 billion, but after the IRS turn in, where somebody turned the Mormon Church into the IRS, saying that they had 100 billion stashed away in a charity portion of the church.
Oh, I heard
I'm
about that.
I'm pretty sure it's closer to 300 billion. So they were talking about they could build an entire city. I'm wondering if they're going to wait until their population or their membership drops so low that they go everybody move to Orlando. Is what I'm wondering that they're thinking because they're kind of losing ground in some respects in Utah. Uh they own Utah politically, but the people there are far more progressive in a lot of ways than the actual church is.
That's what I've been getting from watching the Utah Outcasts.
Yeah. I don't quite know how the church interferes there. I just know it does and it does it well. Um, for instance, I saw somebody celebrating. It was like, hey, they got rid of conversion therapy in Utah. And I'm like, no, they didn't. There's a religious exemption. And I know
Yeah.
why there's a religious exemption.
Well, I think mostly the church pretty much interferes by, you know, the amount of money that they'll put up to back the candidates they want.
Yeah, it's the money and also like if you were a member of the church and let's say a person who is very obviously a representative of the prophet comes and says, "Hey, you might want to do this thing because that's what is expected of you." I think there's also a lot of that going on too.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Um,
Yeah, that the church elders can put a lot of pressure on the people that way.
yeah, because if you truly believe in the church, you believe that these guys that are coming and talking to you can take away your chances of seeing your family in the afterlife.
Yeah.
So, which for some people, that's not a big deal. For others, like, that's the worst thing ever.
Yeah, well, you'll only get into the discount heaven, not the good heaven.
Well, you're originally talking about like how many believe it, and I think I think that there's some of them where it's fairly obvious that they don't. Like
Yeah.
like if you look at like I'm not so familiar with Mormons. I'm actually for some reason know more about the Jehovah's Witnesses, and I
Yeah.
think that's because I watch John Cedars a lot and Telltale a lot.
Yeah.
But like I think the name is Toni Morrison.
Oh,
He
yeah. I remember that. Toni Morrison was caught in the liquor store.
Right, but he's a convert from what I understand. Like he was in Vietnam.
Yeah.
And I have to think that like if you're an adult convert to these kinds of religions, and you get that high, you've got to be in on it, in my opinion.
Yeah.
It's
The
just
thing is that, like, I have met bishops who know it's not true, but they stay because they hope that they can change things. I've met bishops who are complete assholes, and it's very obvious that they're just scamming. But I don't know whether, like I said, because the Mormon Church is really organized. I know the Quorum of the 12 and the First Presidency, like, they partially believe it, but I also know that somewhere they know deep down that they're running a con, or just outright not caring that they're running a con. And then there's the Quorum of the 70, and I'm like, I wonder how many of those like actually know or are actual believers. That's where it gets kind of for me, because it's not glaringly obvious, and some of these people seem like good people who are just trying their best. So it's very, very difficult to tell where that line is drawn. Like, do you get up to the 70 if you're in on it? Or, I know you can't make it to the 15 if you're not in on it somehow. But, like, I don't know where the corruption hits.
Right, I see what you mean. I get what you're saying.
Yeah. Well, and also it's like, at what point, if somebody comes to the conclusion that it's not true, but at what point are they already, in it too deep that they're going to lose all their friends and family if they say anything publicly?
Well, and also, like, the 15, I don't know about, I don't, and again, I don't know where people are paid. I know bishops and stake presidents are not paid. I know mission presidents are. I know the Quorum of the 15 are. I'm assuming that the Quorum of the 70 is. I don't know if area presidencies are, but why in hell would you walk away from the church and give up your free big old house with the big old yard and the picket fence and, like, free travel wherever you want to go, being in charge of $100 billion, or the hope of being in charge of $100 billion, because the only person who's technically in charge of it is the prophet. But at a certain point, you're pretty much set for life as long as you just go along with what's said, even if you don't believe it. There are very few people that, once they become what is called a general authority, actually leave. I've only heard of 2 people leaving that lifestyle in my entire life. And only one of them actively criticizes the church.
And I have to think that's what happens most of the time in Scientology. That, it's like, by the time the people get up to the level that they're, learning the secrets of the religion, that by that time they realize it's bullshit, but by that
They're
time
so invested.
they've got so much money put into it that it's like, they'll lose everything if they walk away.
Yeah, and I'm lucky that I was in the position where I'm at, that I knew my dad wouldn't shun me or cut me off from my sister.
Yeah.
Shunning works very differently in Mormonism than it does for, like, say, Jehovah's Witnesses, but it still happens. And it's one of those things where it's not doctrinal, but the way that the doctrine is set up, it can be very easy to decide to shun family members when they leave. But it's difficult because it's like, at a certain point, you start getting paid for this. So how many people are just sticking around because they're getting paid? How many people are sticking around because they just can't leave because it's not safe for them emotionally or physically at that level? It's almost like a mob, because you have to go with what the prophet says, or or you lose certain things, because he is basically in control of everything. He can say, well, I'm going to dock your pay, or maybe you don't need that house, or maybe I'm going to send you to a different area that's not, just up and move your family to an area that's not quite as nice. I'm I don't I'm pretty sure that some of that shit goes on too.
Oh yeah. I have a hard time really actually understanding the mindset because I've never really had a strong belief in anything that I couldn't verify.
I wanted it to be true so badly that I just allowed myself, I think, because I wanted to be with my family in the way that I was told I would be if I stayed in church. And that kept me in for a very, very long time without questioning a lot of things.
Yeah.
And also, I've met a few people who have had more church time than me, but they're few and far between. When I was growing up, you had 3 hours of church on Sunday. And as a kid, it was a little bit more lax. You had your Wednesday night activity, maybe, and a bunch of family events for you to show up at. But when you become a teenager, when they start realizing that, hey, they're starting to kind of think for themselves, then you get thrown into more activities in seminary, which is before school Bible study, well, scripture study. We studied all of the scriptures. Temple trips. I probably spent just as much time at church when I was a teenager as I did at school during the week.
Yeah, and for me, I never really got into anything that religious. And probably, the biggest disappointment to finding out something wasn't true was realizing that the Loch Ness Monster probably didn't exist.
Aww. I'm still kind of sad about that myself, to be honest.
And that was just kind of from doing the math and figuring out that, it had to be a breeding colony of at least a couple hundred animals, and there probably weren't enough fish there to sustain them.
Jeez. No, I'm not quite that smart. I bought it.
Well, I did for many years. As a teenager, I was really obsessed with the cryptids.
Yeah. But it's... like I said, I'm lucky, even though things are strained here. I never had to worry about my physical safety. I was a little bit worried about some of my emotional safety. But in a lot of ways, even though it's kind of a wreck around here, it's still better than having... It's still a lot better than having had my name on the rolls and having people I care about constantly be like, oh, you'll just be back when you're healed. And I was like, I don't think you understand. I'm not going back.
Well, and like you say, you had the big advantage of knowing that your dad would stand up for you and your sister. Whereas a lot of people in the church couldn't count on a family member doing that.
That just blows my fucking mind. The thought that people will reject their children because they don't believe in the same religion. It just blows my goddamned mind.
It's because, and it's not just religion that does this. This is our society in general, which there is some religious basis for it, but I've also seen non-religious people be like this too. But there's this idea in your head of what your kid's going to be like. And we romanticize having kids, and we don't talk about the realities of it a lot. Not in a way that's constructive. You hear people be like, oh, my kid, I'm going through 20 diapers and blah, 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 blah. but there's this image in their head, and a lot of people think that kids are just these little mini robots that you can control.
Mm-hmm.
And it's
Yeah.
like, no, they're not. Like, even babies have a small amount of personality, because you can't tell me that every baby is the same, because I've met people with babies who have babies who the baby is almost always happy and hardly ever cries, and then you have another baby who won't shut up for anything, and the parents are just like, please be quiet for 10 minutes so I can sleep.
Yeah.
You can't tell me that that's somewhat related to personality.
Mm-hmm.
No, that's definitely, and I've known even within one family, that the kids that if you looked at them at the same age had totally different reactions to things.
Yeah. And people have this idea. It's like, oh, they're just going to be mini robots and they're going to love me and this and that and the other. It's like, no, they're going to have their own personality. And even the personality traits that are similar to yours is going to be payback for what you did to your parents,
Oh
which
yeah.
is why, which is partially why I don't ever want kids.
Well, like, I've said that was the major advantage of, raising other people's kids, that whenever they got really bad, the mother and I could always agree to blame it on their father.
Oh, jeez.
So, at least I didn't have to take the burden for that.
Yeah. I I've seen people. It's just like I've heard people be like, "Oh, don't you want kids?" It's like, don't you want, like, somebody that you can mold and teach and have a legacy? And I'm like, look, all right, I take care of my little sister. My parents were not prepared to have a child with spina bifida. They they had no clue what was in store for them. Absolutely none.
Yeah.
And the nightmare that my parents went through trying to keep the two of us alive, I was just like, you don't have a guarantee of a healthy kid, and you really need to put it in your brain. You can't be prepared for having children completely. There's no way you can. But if you're not at least somewhat in the back of your brain prepared for a kid that isn't exactly how you imagine them to be, don't have them.
And I guess for me it was like, yeah, I never had that idea that they were going to be a certain way, and I thought it was more my job to just protect them and let them explore and decide who they were going to be on their own.
Yeah. And that's actually a better way to look at it, to be honest. I'm fairly certain my mom expected for me to be submissive and obedient and stuff like that. And to a large degree, I was, but we butted heads a lot. And I found out later it's because we were so similar.
Yep.
But she wanted me to be something different than what I was for a very, very long time. And I don't really fault her for that. I fault the way we set people up for it.
Yeah, I think that's really was the case with my father and my eldest brother, that they were too much alike to ever be able to get along enough to work together.
We figured it out, but it took 30 years.
Well, I
And
think
actually
everyone else
wanting
in the
to.
family had figured this out, but my brother and my father hadn't.
We figured it out. But yeah, it's like, and don't get me wrong, if people really want children, I'm all for them having it. It's just you gotta make sure you're ready. You have it in the back of your brain that things are probably not going to go the way you're romanticizing.
Yeah. Well, and you should try and get some kind of experience, practice a little, babysit, maybe take care of some nieces and nephews or something. Just because, yeah, I think a lot of people do go into it really with no idea what they're getting into.
Yeah. Ugh. I would not. Basically, a lot of times I'll say I don't want kids because I don't want to put them through me, and that's the honest to goodness truth. Is I don't want them, so if I have them, then they have a parent that doesn't really want them, and that's a kind of crappy thing to do. Well, it's a really crappy thing to do, but um, I know what CT is, I think, but I don't remember what it stands for, Doc Fearsome.
Well, they're talking about conversion therapy,
Oh yeah.
and that's I was just starting to type something on that I think at this point, pretty much any professional mental health care workers, have dismissed it as just being harmful and never working.
Yeah, I've actually sat with people who went through I guess you could call it a purge at BYU. I've sat with people and basically they've had therapists tell them, without exaggerating, basically say that what they went through damaged them about the same as if they had spent some time in the military in a battlefield zone.
I've heard that comparison before, yeah. But, yeah, I don't think that anyone can point to, any cases where it was really considered to have been effective.
I mean, hell, look at the amount of people who were like running conversion therapy who are coming out now and saying, nope, this stuff doesn't work.
Yeah.
And I'm out. I wish they'd done it sooner, but.
Well, and how many people I've seen, talking about it that they went through the conversion therapy and, were preaching the church thing that they'd been saved and everything was great for 4 or 5 years. And then they're like on the talk show circuit saying about, how horrible it really was.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, it doesn't hold for very long.
I can't remember. There was a book a while back, and the author had done a video with it, and like the woman was talking about how she was blessed by God and this and that and the other, and the woman's eyes looked dead, and there wasn't a smile on her face at all at any time around children or her husband.
You said it didn't take for very long. I said I don't think it took at all. I think in those cases they are trying to. I'm not sure how to word this. They've been given an out. They're like, oh shit, I came out as gay and my life is in shambles. But if I go to this conversion therapy and I say it worked, everything can go back to normal, and I don't have to deal with it anymore.
Yeah, that's probably true in a lot of the cases.
Yeah, and the thing is that no matter what proof you put in front of a lot of these people, no matter how much scientific evidence you put in front of some of these people, they're not going to believe it.
Mm-hmm.
Not saying that we shouldn't have evidence, but I think there should be something said for the kinds of evidences that are available. I know that a lot of people don't like anecdotes, but when you're talking about people's actual lives, a lot of times that's actually the best thing to look at.
Yeah, well, when it involves human psychology, it's very difficult to get any hard data.
Yeah, and we're talking about something psychological, and we're talking about complex human beings.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, anecdotes are all you got.
Yeah, because a lot of times you don't have a large enough group that you can, have any meaningful sample size.
Well, and also, let's say you wanted to test that theory out. how are you going to do that without traumatizing people
Right.
at this point?
Yeah, there isn't any ethical way to do some kind of studies.
So I mean, it's while yes, it would be nice to have this information, I can't think of a good way to get it.
Yeah.
It's just it, and hopefully more and more people start to realize that this stuff is horrible and don't put up with it anymore.
Yeah, well, and again, a lot of that gets back to the thing of a lot of it's being pushed by religious groups. So it's like, are the families of the people going to just continue with what the religious group says, or are they going to say that the religious group is doing something that is harmful to one of their family members?
Yeah, and you also have to realize that in this situation that there are people who harmful means something completely different.
Yeah,
Like,
they
you
can
know, I
justify
don't,
it as saving their soul, even if it's hurting
yeah,
them.
yeah. And that's where a lot of the problem lies is, to me, yes, there is harm to the psyche and the brain, but I don't believe in an eternal soul that could go to damnation. And so my perspective on what is harmful is completely different from somebody who believes in a soul.
Right. And that's the problem you wind up with a lot, that if you've got somebody of a religious mindset, they're going to dismiss a lot of scientific things in favor of, their faith and their beliefs. And,
Yeah,
of
because
course,
God is
if
the
you have
higher.
somebody who actually is a skeptic, they're going to completely dismiss, things about the faith and the soul and try to point to the data. And it's like, yeah, you've got people arguing, talking two completely different languages. So the chance of anyone making any progress is very remote.
Yeah, unless that person is looking for something logical and is finally ready for that breakthrough.
Yeah. So you're only going to reach a small percentage of the group.
If there is a way that doesn't cause harm, I'm all for it. I just don't see a path that way, Doc. Because Doc says, though, that's all the more reason to acquire the information, not
Yep.
at the expense of people's health, of course, but I'd like to think there's a way. I don't know that there is one. And the people who have been through conversion therapy have already been through enough. It's like asking them to do more work as far as I'm concerned. And unless they feel comfortable doing it without re-traumatizing themselves, I
Yeah.
stay away from that. Because,
There
like I
are
said,
some
it was
cases that,
pretty bad. It was pretty bad in the 70s in the Mormon church.
yeah, there are some cases, where even a good psychologist, will have to weigh out, is making the person recall the experience going to be more harmful than anything they could get out of therapy from talking about it.
Okay, so I saw Amiga Nuts comment. I suggest psychologists and psychiatrists under an fMRI as a start. If people want to do that, that's one thing. But I'm not 100% sure that people would want to be scanned because they've already been medicalized. And medicalization isn't always a bad thing. Medicalization is basically, developing treatments for something and like developing medicines and like coming up with diagnoses and things along that nature. But they've already technically been medicalized with a psychologist. So the chances that they're going to want to go and see a psychologist to see how their brain ticks
Yeah.
is going to be low. So, I mean, we can do that, but I don't see people subjecting themselves to that because that's more testing about something that's already pretty traumatic for them. I would like to see, now, like I said, I would like to see that if people want to volunteer, but you're going to have low numbers volunteering for that because they're already going to have a mistrust of psychologists and psychiatrists. And for damn good reason.
Well, speaking from a very personal perspective on that, I have actually not much memory of my childhood. Not not more than scattered fragments of anything before I was 14. And I've been through a lot of therapy dealing with the autism and that, and it's something that gets brought up a lot, and it's like based on the stuff I can verify, I'm not really interested in retrieving the memories I'm blocking.
Yeah. I have a huge memory block from basically, I have memory blocks from the time I was about, let's see, up to 13. And then I remember 13 through 18 really well, but then 18 through 25 is like a lot of that is a mystery
Yeah.
to me.
And to be fair, I wouldn't say that I have reason to believe my family was abusive or anything like that. I think it was somewhat neglectful and above anything, just so wildly inconsistent. So, this is without anybody really having necessarily done anything that was directly harmful. I just think it would be such a screwed up mess to try and dig into that. It's not worth it.
Yeah, Amiga Nuts is asking the qualify for damn good reason part. Uh, but it's like I said, I I wish we had more scientific data on a lot of this stuff. I think it would help some people, but I also understand that in order to get scientific data, you have to have people who are ready to present what is needed for it.
Yeah.
And based on the people that I've met, that's a lot to ask for. And some of them might actually do it, but you're going to have a lot of the worst cases, the people that you're going to want to see the most information from. Those are the ones who are going to be like, nope, I'm out. I can't relive this.
Yeah. Well, and as far as for damn good reason, it's kind of like if you own a house that is severely run down, you can't afford to fix everything. So you've got to focus on the couple of things that are going to keep the rain and the wind out and kind of let everything else go.
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe not a frame of reference other people can get so well. It's just that's what I work with, so I understand that.
Yeah. I think I get you.
There's only so much you can do, and you need to take care of what's going to be the most important. And sometimes the past is not worth the trouble.
Well, and that's what it was
Yeah.
for me. Like I said, I've had a lot of therapy to learn how to deal with the autism. And, that's what I've had to focus on. So digging up stuff from the past that didn't necessarily apply to anything anymore just wasn't worth it.
Yeah, I kind of feel the same way about my mental blocks. Because, I mean, I think a lot of that has to do with the fact of how often I was at church, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
And I've probably wiped all of those churchy things from my brain so that I don't have to deal with them. Because even the good stuff feels like super tainted now. Like
Well, it
really
does
super
sound
tainted.
like, yeah, it kind of permeated every aspect of your childhood there.
Yeah. So for me, that's kind of my mental blocks. And honestly, I don't want to dig into them, especially when I have stuff that affects me just as badly that if I could relieve, I would probably be far better off. But unfortunately, I am a weird mix of different things, and apparently, if I go into a psychologist's office, I am a special case. So, usually they'll look at my income and say, uh, you know, they'll want like $70 for an hour's session
Hmm.
because I'm considered special. So,
Yeah.
which really bites.
Yeah, and again, that gets into the whole thing with the medical insurance, and even if you have decent medical insurance, it usually doesn't cover mental health.
No, because we don't take mental health seriously at all.
Yeah.
I had to
Um, that's one of
fight
the
for my
reasons I wanted to
sisters.
get back to Minnesota, is that I had, better luck with it here as far as feeling that the mental health issues were treated more seriously,
Yeah,
and that does seem to be, a thing with this state that, even Wisconsin, just the next state over, does not seem to handle it as well.
ugh. Yeah, we pretty much have just think positively and everything will be okay and pray a little bit harder. It's like, okay, for some people, yes, they can actually try and have a more positive outlook. There are a few people who can do that, but if your situation is just too crappy to even deal with, or you have something off about the wiring in your head, just thinking more positive thoughts is not going to fix your stuff.
Yeah, and Amiga Nuts, you know, we're agreeing with what you're saying as far as it would be good to have more studies and that on it, but um, yeah, it's just a question of, is there even a way to study the subject without traumatizing the people more?
Yeah, and it I wouldn't say that it drives me crazy, but I have had situations where I've talked with ex-Mormons and been in literal tears after I've been done with them. And they didn't even tell me the detailed shit. They kept it down low, but it's sometimes when you're talking with somebody, you can hear what they're not saying because they're trying to protect you because they know how bad it is. And I've walked away from those situations just in complete tears. Um,
Yeah.
and it's just unfortunately until we figure out a way to do it without hurting people, without re-injuring people, essentially, I don't know of anything other than what we've got. Um,
Yeah, it basically it has to be a voluntary thing that the people who feel strong enough to come forward, being willing to share their experience and talk to psychiatrists. But I
yeah,
don't think there's anything more organized than that we can do without pressuring some people into things they might be uncomfortable doing.
yeah. Um, like I said, there a lot of them are going to mistrust psychiatry in general, because at the time that these things were happening, it was it was mainstream and considered, what all the psychiatrists were doing. And it wasn't considered some quack who was doing malpractice. Of course, now we know better. We know it's malpractice, but at the time, it was considered normal for you to go through all of this crap if you were in the LGBTQ plus community. So, and scientifically, we know better. It's just getting the religious people on board and realizing that, hey, this whole saving the soul thing, but completely decimating a person's life, that's not good.
Well, one argument you should be able to make there is the thing, like Amiga Nuts is saying about how many of them commit suicide. And if they commit suicide, they're not going to be able to get into heaven. I know it's kind of a weak argument, but it's kind of the best thing I can take out of this.
I kind of don't like that blackmail about that, though. It feels like
well,
blackmail.
And also, it sounds like manipulation, and also I'm a little bit hesitant because the Mormon Church has an attitude, and several other churches do too. I'm fairly certain Jehovah's Witnesses think the same way, and several Pentecostals do as well, that it's better to have died than to have committed certain sins. Mm-hmm. And for some people that might work, and for some people it might be, well, good, now they won't commit that sin, and they'll go and God will bless them. And it's just like, really? Really? That's how you think of things? Like, holy shit.
Yeah, even when I said that, it didn't seem to be right. The concept wasn't fully formed. I didn't really think it through right enough.
It's okay. But yeah,
how many times have I done that on this streams?
I mean, we're just talking off the cuff, and there's no set questions or program or anything. So I mean, we're all gonna say stuff that's not fully formed. Though that's kind of the point of us sitting here talking about this stuff.
And that's why I usually don't try to have topics here.
Yeah. Besides, we get off topic before we even get go online.
Yeah, that's happened.
But yeah, my biggest hope for certain states is that the Mormon Church eventually crumbles enough to where they don't have any influence anymore. That's going to be a while. Yeah. But that seems to be the biggest thing, is hopefully more and more people go, I'm not okay with any of this stuff, and just walk away.
Yeah, and I'm expecting that's going to happen to most of the big churches, but it's more likely to happen over the course of 2 or 3 generations.
Yeah, it's not going to be an overnight thing.
Yeah. So I wouldn't expect to see any radical differences in less than 50 years.
Yeah, I wouldn't either, which is really, really upsetting, but unfortunately changes most of the time don't happen overnight.
Yeah.
I might be able to get my little sister out of the Mormon Church after my dad is gone. Might. But I don't know for sure, because that's her routine and that's considered part of her environment. And changing her routine or environment ends up going badly.
Yeah.
So, and for my dad, I've lost hope. He's stuck in that church. He's going to be there until he dies. Which,
and on an emotional level, I can understand, that whole thing that he's holding on to about, being back with his wife again and all that.
Oh, yeah. Those two, they had their problems and they were dysfunctional as hell, but those two worshipped each other.
Yeah. Well, and that's, I could see, if I was a bit more emotional and less logical, that I could very much have been in that same kind of situation.
Yeah. And also my dad would at some point also have to fully admit the issues that I brought up with him, and that he brought all three of us girls. He calls my mom and my sister and I as girls, but all three of his girls into a really abusive situation. And he's
Yeah.
not going to allow himself to think that.
Yeah. Again, there is a thing of some people that when they realize they've made a really bad decision on something, that there really isn't any way they can back off from it.
Yeah. I honestly think that at his age, it would actually break him. So I think it's just better for me to leave it alone, even though, like I said, I wish that both of them would find a different church, because they're not gonna become atheists. Neither of them ever are.
Hmm.
But there are far better churches. All churches have their problems, but there are far better churches out there.
Yeah, that they could get into a church that is actually more supportive and less controlling.
Yeah, yeah.
You okay there, Kitty?
Yeah.
Okay.
I just don't think she had much to add.
Yeah, this is outside of my scope of atheisting, because I was never in one of these high control groups, so it's very
Yeah.
outside my experience, and so I've just been listening.
Yeah, I wouldn't wish it on anybody. Well, no, actually, there's a couple of people I would wish it
Well,
on.
I think that's for me. The thing was that, being the youngest of a large family, you know, I I never had any illusions that I was ever in control of anything. So the best thing I could do was a sort of controlled chaos to make sure that no one else was in control of me.
That makes sense. I thought I was in control. I was given the idea that I was in control. And yeah, no, I wasn't. I wasn't. Like, they tell you stuff like you have what they call free agency, where you can choose what you want, but
If you don't
it's
choose
basic.
what they want,
Yeah,
mm-hmm.
yeah.
Oh,
Throwing things.
my headphones. Well, I'm getting used to this new chair, and I leaned back in my chair and started to rotate, realizing that my headphone cable was looped around the arm of the chair, and if I kept turning, I was gonna do some bad things.
Ah, yanking your own wires.
Yeah.
Amiga Nut says, my brother has 6 kids. 4 have left the Mormon church. One of the remaining seems somewhat okay. The last one is a total wreck with his family and a devout Mormon. That's actually pretty common now, because a lot of people are leaving. Uh, especially nowadays. I think part of it is, for some people, when you see them leave, it makes you have a stronger faith. And for others, when you see people leave, you start to realize all the little things that have been in your head, and you start to go, "Oh, wait. I'm not alone in thinking this stuff. Maybe I should stop putting it on the back burner and then jump in full force and go, whoop, nope, not for me."
Yeah,
Well,
well,
it's what
yeah. Some
they
people will double down and some people will re examine it.
yeah, and it's the whole I'm not alone. I'm not the only person that thinks these things.
Yeah.
Maybe
Yeah,
these people can help me if I say something too, you know.
I am glad that at least 4 of them are out. Oh no! Snow is evil. That's why I live in Florida.
Well, if it's hitting Doc tonight,
Ugh.
it'll probably be over me sometime tomorrow.
Did
And
did I
I heard it was supposed to get a lot colder tomorrow, but I didn't hear about any significant snow coming in.
Uh-oh, did I think it was purse season too soon?
What season?
Purse season. I have purse season and I have backpack season.
Oh,
Backpack
okay.
season is the winter when I can carry an umbrella, my beanie, my gloves, my scarf, all of the things that I would need to carry around if it was to have bad weather. And then in the summer, when I'm not carrying around all those things, I transition back into carrying a purse.
Oh,
And so
okay.
I just swapped back to my purse today, and now I'm like, wait, are we going to be having bad weather in here too?
I don't know. That's all northeast stuff. I don't get snow. When I do, it melts before it hits the ground.
I'm not that far north of you, and I've had snow that sticks occasionally.
Yeah, you're not that far north from me, but I also live on the coast too, and that
Mhm.
kind of also has to do with it.
Yeah.
Because actually, if you go into uh the north and center Florida, they actually do get snow that sticks sometimes.
Yeah.
Just not very often. But here where I live, basically like it either right before it hits the ground into turns into melted water essentially, or um, or it hits the ground and then it instantly turns to sludge.
Yeah. I've been trying to convince my boyfriend that we should take a trip to Tallahassee at some point.
Tallahassee is okay.
Well, there's specifically a place in Tallahassee that I want to visit. It's called oh goodness, I forgot the name. But it's a play on words. Let me. I remember There we go. It's called Public Displays of Confection, and it's a candy store
Ah.
where they make hard can Lofty Pursuits and Public Displays of Confection is what it's called.
Oh, jeez.
And it's a
Hold
candy
on.
store. And they have a YouTube channel, and sometimes when I'm bored, I will watch videos of them making candy.
Okay, I know you just said the name twice, but now I want to Google it. What's the name again?
Lofty Pursuits and Public Displays of Confection.
There we go. Google is finishing it for me. Okay, because, like, okay. I'm a little bit biased. My favorite candy store is Peterbrook.
Mhm.
It is the best chocolate, and probably it's the best chocolate because it's my hometown chocolate, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Although Peterbrook does ship, I think, all over the United States.
Well, this place I've ordered from them before. I ordered some rose flavored candies and some actual black currant candy because black currant is like illegal in the U.S., but they get the extracts from somewhere, or maybe it's not. Maybe it's only illegal in parts of the U.S. or something. I can't remember.
Huh. A damn Fino assortment. I love how they've got a Victorian slang word. For one of their assortments. That's cute.
Hey, you should watch their videos. They're pretty interesting. They show how they, roll candy and mix candy and pull the stuff.
Yeah, I probably should. I used to dabble a little bit in candy making. I didn't really get far, but I did learn how to make a really good caramel and toffee. I'm really good at making toffee. And I had also learned, I can't remember. I think I had started doing brittle for a while. And also, I'm okay at fudge. I haven't quite like I get the ingredients correct, but I haven't quite got the temperature down on that one.
I used to make a really good marshmallow chocolate fudge. Everybody loved it. I used to do it for Christmas every year.
Oh yeah, my family used to do fudge um, using Jiffy Puff recipe that my aunt would make. But when she passed away, we kind of stopped making it.
Oh my gosh, they have little TARDISes, but they can't call them TARDIS because they can't. They call it a British police box. Sorry, I'm now wrapped up in the site.
I was wondering how far they'd go with it, and wondering if they would at least call it an interstellar police box
Yeah.
or interdimensional. Yeah.
Amiga nuts. Yeah, I'm not old myself, but there are kids that I have babysat who are now having children, and I'm just like, no, stop that, don't do it.
Well, like I said, it's, I realize that the youngest one that I raised is now in college, so.
I feel old when I'm at work and I have to ID somebody to buy alcohol, and they were born like the year I entered high school or the year I graduated high school, and then I'm like, God damn it.
No. Oh no.
Yeah, well, that's, like Kate goes on about the 80s, and it's like, I graduated high school in 82.
Mm-mm-mm.
I'm not going to say when I was born. That would be mean right now.
Yeah, I know you've mentioned it before. I don't remember exactly, but I'm sure that I've got it within about 5 years.
Yeah.
I'm going to say 82.
Nope. Close though.
85.
Little too far. Back up some.
Oh, okay. So it was either 83 or 84.
Yep. 84.
Yep. So I had graduated and was in the technical institute by the time you were born.
Sorry, Purple.
Yeah, that's okay. I've gotten used to that in this community.
Yeah.
That I've raised kids older than a lot of the people that I'm dealing with, and yeah, I'm a certified old geezer here.
Well, that's okay. That just means you can knock me upside the head with your cane.
Yeah, I'm resisting getting the cane so far, but my right knee's not going to last too much longer.
Oh, ouch.
Just get a snazzy looking cane then.
Yep. If you're going to have to get one that's like all personalized and crap.
The odd thing was, from when I was about 25 to 32, I actually did wind up using a walking stick a lot because my knee was getting really bad then, and it managed to get a bit better after that point. So when I was still young enough that it wouldn't have been normal, I had to use one, but now I don't need it.
There's a really, I think it's odd, but do you have Renaissance fairs up in that area?
Oh yeah, Minnesota Ren Fest is pretty big.
Yeah, check the Ren Fair, because you're likely to find somebody who does woodworking.
Oh yeah,
And-
Yeah.
there's usually at least one person who's selling staves and wands and crap. Because wands are a big thing at the Red Fairs now too, at least down here.
Well, if it ever actually comes to it, I would probably wind up making one myself.
Oh yeah, you're
fair.
probably capable of that. I forget.
Yeah, the whittling and carving isn't what I usually do, but I can do a passable job of it. So, it's something I would personalize, and I guess that still is kind of a more pagan attitude I'd have.
Would personalize?
Well, just as far as I,
You're
the
not
thing
getting
about
purple. It's a joke.
Yeah.
Would personalize?
right, okay.
Terrible.
Yeah. And I was way too slow for it.
Oh man. I remember when we finally convinced my mom to get a cane. She's like, fine. She put like bells all over it. She's like, you're gonna hear me coming. And like ribbons and shit. She was just like, I want dragons carved into it. So she got a friend to carve dragons into it. And she was like, if you make me have to use this on you, you're not going to be happy. And oftentimes when people were walking around and not really paying attention, she'd be like, hear these jingle bells? They're about to fly towards your face. People would move. I'm beginning to wonder if that's why when I'm carting my sister around in her wheelchair, where I'm like, hey, yo, there's a wheelchair behind you and you have one chance to move before I run you over. Oh, we're sorry. We're really sorry. That's what I thought.
Yeah, well, actually, when I had to use a walking stick, I decided that if I was going to have to carry it around, I wasn't just going to use it for that, and I actually learned some staff fighting with it. So, like, if somebody had tried to jump me at night, I could have clubbed them pretty well with it.
I don't know that my mom could have, but she had a presence. Like, it was basically she looked and sounded like you didn't want to test that theory out.
Yeah. Well, I had started out with a couple of basic moves I learned because one of my foster brothers was an MP who got stationed at a base in Germany, and they weren't allowed to carry weapons off the base. So he had to patrol the perimeter, and the only thing he could use was this flashlight that had a tube of 8 D-cell batteries.
That packed a punch if you hit somebody with it.
Yeah, well, that was the idea. It was a flashlight. It wasn't a weapon. But it was a hell of a good fucking club if they needed it.
Yeah.
He taught me how to break somebody's collarbone with it so that if they were carrying a weapon, their arm would basically just hang loose and they'd have to drop the weapon.
Oof. Yeah, but that does take some practice. Like, honestly, I've heard all of the tips about getting away from an attacker, and I was like, yeah, I mean, if you know how to do them, that's great. But
good luck performing them under pressure.
Yeah, good luck performing them under pressure if you haven't practiced, or you've only had
who do you practice those things on? Like, in all seriousness, like you take a class where they teach you, self-defense, and then who are you supposed to practice on?
Well, and even those self-defense classes, a lot of times, all they're doing is really teaching you how to look like you know what you're doing, because that'll deflect most people, because most people are like, I don't want to.
Yeah. There's a lot to that. It's the attitude you carry yourself with.
Now, as far as if somebody is not turned off by that, then you're pretty much screwed, because those self-defense classes assume that the person who's attacking you doesn't really know their stuff, and that may not always be true either.
Yeah. Well, I've always been very nocturnal, so I would go taking strolls in what really wasn't a very good neighborhood I lived in, at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. But I did feel reasonably safe, just under the assumption that most people will not mess with someone they think is stranger than they are.
Yeah, there's that too.
I used to, it was one of those things growing up. So I'm like 5'11". I'm almost 6 feet tall. I'm probably, well, you guys have seen me on stream, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm not I fancy myself an intimidating figure sometimes. And I
Yeah.
used to always have these people talk about, oh, don't you feel unsafe walking to and from work at night? I'm like, I've lived in this neighborhood since I was 10 years old. Everyone knows me. Everyone has seen me squish the local bully when she tried to pick on me. I don't think anybody's going to mess with me.
Oh, hey, Greg.
When I say squish, we ended up, she finally decided to try and fight me.
Yeah.
And I didn't fight her. I just sat on her.
Duh.
I literally pinned her to the ground and put my hands on her. I sat on her chest and put her hands under my feet, and I just sat there until. Are you done? I can scoot back.
Duh. Yeah. I know that I wouldn't. I know that I'm not practiced enough to do much of anything. I just tend to try to
Yeah.
make sure I look like I'm somebody you don't really want to mess with. But
Well-
unless like Mama Bear instincts kicked in for my little sister, in which I would probably do at least enough damage to let my sister get away. Otherwise, not really.
Yeah, the way I got through high school was that just, I would put up with a lot of shit of people picking on me all the time, and just a couple times a year, I would just fly off and just go after somebody. And it's like after they saw this and they knew they couldn't predict when it might happen, nobody bothered me for several years.
Duh.
Because it's like
Yeah.
I was always a very, light build in that, never had a lot of upper body strength, but I don't know if it's part of the Scandinavian heritage, if I got a bit of the berserker, but when I fly into it, for at least the first 5 minutes or so, I just don't feel anything. And you can do a lot of damage in 5 minutes if you don't feel the pain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of fights that I actually lost, but I did enough damage that nobody wanted to deal with it.
Oof.
Because it's the nature of bullies. They don't want to, pick on anybody if they think there's a chance they could actually get hurt.
Yeah. Really.
Okay.
I
I
don't
think
know.
I need to turn it down. I'm being too loud here.
I was pretty much invisible. Like I got some teasing, but most people just didn't realize I existed.
Yeah.
So that was kind of my shield.
Okay. I think I'm keeping Soft Girl awake, so I should probably wrap this up for tonight.
Okay.
Yeah. Don't want to keep her up. She might be harmful to you.
Yeah, well, I'm still getting my place organized, so we're largely kind of stuck being roommates for a while.
Oof.
And that's partially my thing, that I'm, trying to take more time and organize things from the ground up, and I'm not good at organizing, so it's a slow process for me.
Yeah, organizing's not my thing either.
Of course, it doesn't help that, I've got to start by building the furniture, but, in the long run, it's a good thing because I can, design it and get everything exactly how I want it, but it just takes longer.
Yeah. Yeah, well, hopefully that doesn't bog y'all down for too long.
Yeah. Well, the idea was to get her place functional first and then start working on mine, so. So we got hers organized. She got a new couch today.
Oh, nice.
Yep. Okay, so yeah, we're gonna let you go. Either of you have anything going on? Anything you want to
Nope.
let people know about?
I
Nope.
am out of commission until my cold is somewhat settled. Uh, I'm surprised I haven't been coughing a lot. So, but yeah, until my cold is settled and all, I am not up for like recording or editing or anything like that.
Yep.
So,
Yeah, and that's part of my thing that, with setting up, I'm trying to, at least envision how I can have something that I can do more edited videos and, do some stuff on camera and that will be easy to put up and take down and get out of the way when I'm not using it.
I made my first video. It's only
yay!
it's edited. Um, you guys saw the interview that Nervardia did with John Richards a couple days ago, sometime last week, I
I saw a
think.
I
highlights
know
reel
of
from it.
it.
I didn't see the whole
I know
thing.
of
So
it.
did you see the highlight where he says that um, David he never received any um,
Oh yeah.
nominations from
Yep.
for David Worley? Did you see the highlight where the picture of the email was on the screen?
No, I don't think I saw the email.
Yeah. I
No.
I
Notcha
spent
Witness did a highlights reel of it that I was watching the other night.
I was watching it and I got that far and I went and I clipped out that spot where he and him are talking. She and him or they are talking. Wow, grammar. And I went and I found the screenshot that David Worley had posted about it. And so over the chat I pasted the email where it's highlighted where it says I have not received any nominations where the email says I'm not it basically says I'm not going to accept your nomination until you give me an interview on your channel, right?
Hmm.
So it's on screen while he's saying I never received any nominations for David Worley. I then went and found a clip of someone screaming "What the fuck." Learned how to frame it so that the screen would make a glitching. Like, have you ever seen like when a computer screen glitches with like the distortion and all that?
Yeah.
Figured out how to do that, and then put in that clip, and then put a clip of my character, my cat character, on the screen with that email, so that when he's saying "What the fuck," the screen is like distorting, and then I responded to his insistence that he never received a nomination. It's like a minute and a half long. It's not much, but
Okay.
it was my first edited video.
Is that up on your channel now? I
Yeah,
I didn't see a notification for it. Of course, I'm weeks behind, so I keep putting things on a watch list, and
Yeah,
I'm only
weeks?
I
half aware of what
Really?
I'm putting into the list.
Only weeks? I'm still in December of last year.
Okay. Well, yeah, I basically have not had a chance to watch much of anything since the move, so that's pretty much where I've left everything off.
Right, I'm just teasing. Oh, excuse me.
yeah, I didn't watch it because I am really like right before right before they started pushing the self-isolating thing. My health was already kind of like my mental health was already kind of messed up. So I am keeping up with like what's going on with the virus as best I can in politics, but
Yeah.
that means I don't really have room for anything else.
I'm doing the exact opposite. I'm like keeping up with the virus in my state and nothing else, and I'm just watching Minecraft videos on YouTube.
Yeah, I'm keeping up with politics because like I for a while there Donald Trump was talking about wanting to put more disabled people to work. and that thought scares the holy living shit out of me.
What does he mean? What do you mean put more disabled people to work?
He was talking about putting in a requirement that if you were able to work, that you had to work in order to get or try to work in order to keep your SSI benefits
Ugh.
and your SSDI. And my sister is in that category where it's kind of gray, where she looks like she could take a regular job, but she really couldn't.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Well, I need to
But
shut
yeah,
this
we're not
down
going to go
here.
into. Yeah.
Yeah,
Sorry.
okay.
We keep going on tangents. Sorry, Sloth Girl.
Okay. Well, good night, everybody.
Good night.